It's pretty crazy to like be able to like look back now and be like, oh, I did that. Just seeing like, I remember some of the tracks I would go to and like the whoops would be like up to my chest. And I'd be like, how am I gonna get through this? Like not once, but like multiple times. I remember one of my first shows, it was like, oh, we need a girl. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't do any tricks. I can like kind of whip and knack. And they're like, we don't care. We just need a girl to jump 75. And that's how it like started. So like that's literally, it was like, we need a girl and the girl can do the jump. And that's like legit how it started.
I met a gypsy.
Today, before we get into this episode, I want to bring you a message from today's podcast sponsor, Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens is not only an all-in-one formula that helps me just cover all my nutritional bases, it's also the first healthy habit that I have that starts every single day. It sets the tone for a healthy day and just keeps my eyes laser focused on Glen Helen at the end of the year. Definitely notice improvements to my skin and massive improvements to my overall gut health. AG1 is packed with 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients of the highest quality that are able to offer gut health support, mood support, can affect your energy each day, and contribute to overall healthier looking hair and skin. Go to athleticgreens.com/gypsytales if you want to get that free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs added to your first order. Thanks so much to the guys and girls at Athletic Greens. We're excited to have you on board. Let's just roll straight into it. Miss Vicki Golden, the G of all G's, has finally joined the podcast.
I know, better late than never, right?
Yeah, no, these things aren't always as easy to schedule as people might assume. Busy schedules, time zones, all that jazz. So I never get bummed on it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I even just coming here, I'm like, well, you said tomorrow, but wait, is that today at 3 or tomorrow at 3? I'm just like, oh man, like I just did the same thing with Italy, with Garnet, of like trying to contact with Italy as well. As I was just like, dude, time frames and emails, I'm like, you don't talk to the person and until their next day, and then your next day you've woken up and they're going home from work. So it's chaos.
Yeah, no, and I'm like honestly not the best at it too. One day I'll have like a booking agent or like some kind of formal thing where it's like someone just takes care of it, but we ain't there yet.
Yeah, hey, well, that's when you know you make it.
So what's news? What's been the latest dirt bike adventure or misadventure?
Oh man, it's actually been nice. I've been just kind of we had a hectic Supercross season doing demos there, and and then I had events. Kind of the times I didn't go to Supercross, I had other events going on, so it was just like a hectic first start to kick off the year, and now it's settled back down for like the past, since Supercross ended pretty much. It's been, I get to relax, get into a schedule and go to the gym and just enjoy being home and getting to do hobbies and fun stuff and spending time with friends and family, and just enjoying a little bit of time off. And then, now we're slowly getting back into the pure hectic lifestyle again.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was literally just saying to the boys, like, I got to go on Friday, and it's like I've probably been home for a month and a bit, or been in Australia for a month and a bit, and it's like, fuck, it's so hard to leave once you just like get in the schedule. And I'm sleeping 8 hours every night without an alarm, and like I'm training every day and I'm riding, and you just start to get in such a nice flow, and it's like, see ya.
Yeah. Then it's all gone, and then the minute you come back, then you got to start from scratch. It sucks sometimes, but I mean, once you're in the flow of traveling, it's not bad. You just pull your clothes out, pull them out of the wash, put them back in the bag, and go. It's nice when you have that rotation, but you're like, man, that's pretty bad. Like, I just wanna like just chill and sleep in for a day and not have everything going on, but it's the life we live, man.
That's it. We what do they say? Like, pick your problems, you know? So it's not
Yeah,
not bad
I mean,
problems
all
to have.
these problems are good, very good problems to have. I'll take them any day of the week.
Yeah. So what's your home downtime look like? What's like ideal downtime for you?
I mean, really just like I truly enjoy getting to go to the gym and cycling, mountain biking, like all those things that, all the, the racers have to do. I actually enjoy doing them. So the days I actually get time and free time to go do them, then I'm like, sick, let's go mountain bike. Well, right now we have so many rattlesnakes that we don't really go too much mountain biking right now, but we'll go skinny tire and go pedal for a few, or even just flat out going to the gym. Like I thoroughly enjoy going to the gym, and it's just endless in there. So I kind of just make a point of just picking a time and sticking to a schedule of being able to ride in the mornings, whatever it is, go to the gym, and just being home with my boyfriend, my dog, just getting to live like, a normal person for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can relate totally. The training thing, is that like just a carryover from your days as a racer? Because I feel like once you're in that flow, like you kind of, I don't know, maybe you enjoyed the training and you would have made a solid like racer for a living.
Yeah, so when I was racing, I didn't have enough knowledge. I didn't really know what I was doing and what it did for the right reasons or the wrong reasons. So I just was really uninformed when I was racing.
Yeah.
And now I feel like that's all I do is just research, reading, and just like, going through the work of just trying to like be as much informed as I can. But yeah, back then I didn't know what I was doing. I was just going through the motions, doing what the trainer told me when to do it, when to eat, what to eat, but I didn't know why, so it was just kind of one of those things where back when I was racing, I was just going through the woodwork just because of that's what you're taught and told to do. Now I do it. I got sick from it. And then once I developed Epstein Barr and Supercross and realized that I can't train this way anymore. That's kind of when I took a step back, but I still had the mentality of the racer, but I just didn't have the physical exertion to go do it. Yeah. So that took a couple years of just trying to find the right balance, of what to look out for, what things to do and don't, and, actually listening to my body for once and taking a break when it's needed and pushing when it's needed. And yeah, just finding the balance in your own body.
So there's a million ways we could go, because you've actually had an insane career. I'll start by saying I think you're actually extremely underrated. Like, just
thank you.
of all the things that you've done, of all the capabilities that you have on multiple different bikes. I actually think that you're an extremely underrated motorcycle talent. So there's
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, there's so many things that we could talk about. But the Epstein Barr thing's interesting. Like, so that was like during Supercross when you were like training for Supercross? Yeah,
and my training was mainly on the bike. I would get in as much as I could off the bike, but like for me, like I need to learn on the bike and do things on the bike, and I felt like I was a little bit behind the bar and behind schedule when it came to that stuff. So I wanted to be on the track as much as possible, logging as many laps as I could, learning sections, and just finding the right flow. I mean, Supercross is no joke in itself. No. And then to put someone like me, like I just needed to learn. So I chose on the bike training as much as possible. But with that, I was basically a privateer, but not a privateer. I had some help, but not enough help. So I was doing a lot of the bike work, the running around errands, getting the race bike ready. And then what a lot of people didn't see is the media schedule I had on top of all of the privateer work. So like my schedule for racing there was no day off, especially during the East Coast series, and I was already based on West Coast. So Monday I'd ride and train, do errands, whatever I had to do for a race bike, getting everything ready. Tuesday, same. Wednesday I'd fly to the East Coast. Thursday I'd be waking up at 4 a.m, which is, even earlier for West Coast time, doing press from like 4 a.m. till, whenever they said stop. Same thing Friday, and then do tech and stuff like that with the bike, race Saturday, fly home Sunday, and start all over again. So looking back, I'm an idiot, but it was just like this, that was my schedule, and I went with it. And I think that just dug me a big hole that I was just obviously at that time too. I was racing Saturday, didn't have the energy to do it, but I was doing it anyways. Not getting the result I wanted, and then I'd go home and try 10 times harder.
Yeah,
when in
you
reality,
just
I should have just took a break. But that's not easy for a racer to do, is do nothing.
Yeah. I don't think people understand how gnarly just purely the flight schedule is for Supercross. And I remember when I was over there, like exactly what you said, you'd have a Sunday morning 4:30 a.m. flight, West Coast time, which is 1 a.m. East Coast time, which is 1 a.m. West Coast time. And like, man, it was almost like you were doing an international flight every single week because of how jacked up the time zones were.
Yeah, sometimes it definitely felt like I felt like I had easier international travel days than I did domestic.
Yeah, no, and I think that, yeah, you can really just put yourself in a massive hole when it comes to just like sleep and then like airport food and nutrition, and man, it's like it actually is pretty gnarly. You can see why Stuart and Chad and Ricky, like when they could fly private, it's such a huge advantage.
Oh, a huge advantage. I mean, there's just, like you said, there's so many variables of just even getting enough water, food, the right food, when you can eat is limited. So, I mean, just to those things, and like not that I was at that level, but I was trying to compete at that level, and it's just like all those little things add up to a really big day, and they're detrimental to a Saturday for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so you actually got Epstein Barr, or did they call it like chronic fatigue or Epstein Barr, or like what was the actual sickness?
I mean, I was diagnosed with Epstein Barr, and that was a time where I think it was when maybe like a few years after it was like a huge like surge of it, and it was like also rumors going around like all the riders not doing as well as they want, they get Epstein Barr. And I didn't quite understand it, and I was like, oh, that's just the excuse. That's not, it's like Bigfoot, like it's not a real thing. And I was like, all right, so I started kind of just explaining my symptoms, and that was actually the same year Bowers and Coop were going for the championship in the 250, and myself and Bowers had the same doctor, and Bowers got diagnosed with it, and then he was like, you're telling me everything he's telling me, so let's get your blood work checked. And sure enough, it came back, and me and Tyler had like the gnarliest off the scale charts of Epstein Barr that Navarro had seen. Yeah, so it was just like, all right, sweet, what do we do? And he's like, nothing you can do.
Yeah, just chill, bro.
Yeah, and obviously you're not going to take that. And I think I found out the second to last round of Supercross, and I was like, well, I've come this far, like, screw it, like, let's just dig the hole at this point. And we only got 2 races left. I mean, I've come this far, like, let's just put a nail in the coffin and just see what we can do. And I mean, I was like, dude, I do the, you know, like obviously when you qualify, it's 1 lap that gets you in. And I was like 25 seconds into a minute lap time, just fighting not to puke, and just like couldn't hold myself together, and just struggling really, really bad, and just still trying to push through. And I'm glad I did, even though it dug me a huge hole to get out of after the series was over. But that last round, I was able to make it in, so it was at least worthwhile.
Yeah. So what's the symptoms of Epstein Barr? Like, what do you start feeling to then, I guess, like go and get checked out?
It's pretty tough to really like say, because it came on and off, you know, like it was a lot of cold symptoms, a lot of flu symptoms, like 1 or 2 cold or flu symptoms, and then it'd go away. You know, you get like a sore throat, or you get stuffed up, or, you know, just like normal things. And then it just starts developing into you just get lethargic. Even if you do eat, you don't feel good after you eat. taking down, liquids and just like trying to get stuff into your system gets harder and harder. And just like it's kind of endless. It can go into like your stomach, your brain. Like I was struggling with so much brain fog and fatigue just everywhere, and just like it's just a mix of so many different symptoms that seem like you're just getting sick, but then they go away and then you maybe feel better for a day or two and then something else comes up. So it was just kind of an erratic thing of just multiple symptoms, but it was just kind of getting to the point where I'm like, I know I'm not this out of shape. Yeah, so that was kind of like the thing, and just like you can kind of feel things going on with your body and you're just like, this is not right. So that's kind of when I started going to my doctor and kind of explaining things to him. And that's when he was like, let's get some blood work and kind of see where we're at.
Yeah, because I guess that would be a telltale sign. It's like, I've done all this work, I'm fit as fuck, but I can't walk up a flight of stairs. Like something ain't adding up here.
Exactly. And throughout like the practice track time, it was like, all right, do a 12 lap moto. And then I was like, dude, I can't do 12 laps. All right, let's do 10. Oh, dude, I can't make it to 10. And then it was just slowly deteriorating when you should be building. So it's like you're feeling the opposite effects because you're just like, you're draining all of your, everything you've got, and there's nothing to, replenish. So that's kind of when you start feeling that when you should, in a normal situation, be building, you're just depleting.
Yeah. And so you think that that's like it, because it is fairly common in moto, and you just think it's just a case of dudes just overcooking it?
Absolutely. I mean, I wasn't even probably putting in, as much effort, or I know I wasn't putting in as much effort. I was doing everything I could, but, those level of guys, they're putting in, unbelievable laps a day, testing every day, and fitness on top of that. So I know like where they're pushing their bodies, and for sure it's easy to, I'm surprised more riders don't get it, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, like the whole performance enhancing drugs thing is just like the most taboo subject in moto. Like no one fucking wants to talk about it or whatever, but man, like I've started training for world vets. That's like, I'm out doing like 320s a day and a couple 5K runs. And I'm like, how do these boys do this shit without drugs? Like, are you fucking serious? Like all of y'all telling me that you can do this shit without it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like, I feel like I'm in pretty good shape to where, like, when I do go to the track, I run a stopwatch and on my bars, and I try and go for, like, I'll go to about 30 minutes and push as hard as I can. I don't run, like, a heart rate monitor or anything. I just have a watch for the sake of I'm going to push the bike because it might run out of gas. So I want to keep tabs on it. And that's just like where I'm at, like physical conditioning. I just feel good that I can go that long. So I want to make sure I don't run out of gas. Yeah. So that's like, I'm like, I can do 30s, but I'm kind of hurting the next day to where I don't think I could do 30s the next day too.
Or an hour later.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like drugs would be needed.
Yeah, dude, totally. So what was the process of recovery? So like you finished the last round of Supercross and then you just basically, that was just full chill after that.
Yeah, it kind of got to a point where I was just sleeping like almost all day. Almost 24 hours a day. I was just like out cold sleeping, just like trying to recoup. Gnarly. And yeah, I felt like worthless. And it was like, obviously, Supercross is in winter, so we go into our summer and it's hot. So if I'd go outside, I would basically get just pure heat exhaustion because it would shock my system going from an air-conditioned house to outside that's super hot, and that would just like trigger me, and I'd just like lose all my energy that I thought I had. So pretty much it was just trying to not shock my system like that. So I'd just kind of stay inside, chill, and the only time I really left the house was just to get treatment. I did like IVs and blood irradiation therapy to try and just get myself just get something back and kind of get back to life again. But yeah, it was a rough process just to get some life back going,
And how long do you think it took to get back to kind of normal?
I would say maybe 4 or 5 months to where I was like, all right, like I feel like I can sustain, you know, maybe some training and stuff like that, and then get back into it. But unfortunately, the following year, I started getting back into my schedule, and it just came right back. So both years I raced Supercross, I got Epstein Barr. So yeah, it was not fun.
Nah, and I think there's like the physical side, which obviously you've got to work on and try and get better, and there's like this physicality that has to recover, but then that's not to say anything about like the mental effects that it has of just going from being the most active person, racing, training, all the endorphins that you're getting from moto and supercross, and then the training endorphins that you're getting, and then you just like clip all of it. You probably felt like the biggest piece of shit.
Oh yeah, that was probably the toughest thing. And that was kind of, I mean, I was young too, so that was like taking a toll of like, I've been living my life to the point of like, no isn't an option. I do everything until I can't do it anymore. And now this whole world opened up of like, well, now you have to monitor what you do and how hard you do push. So I like kind of spoke about earlier is like it took a little bit of finding what my triggers were, how to get better from, because I mean, depending on what doctor you're asking is an answer you'll get differently. But in my opinion, you don't ever like just Epstein Barr's gone.
Completely.
Yeah. You can't cure it. So that's been kind of my story, is that I get flare ups to where if I feel like I'm pushing too much, I feel that and I have to back it off a little bit. But it took me a couple years to really figure out what that looked like and where I could push and where I couldn't push and when and what it feels like. And I actually got a lot of help from a couple of Olympians that struggle with it as well, and they kind of gave me like tips on what to do when you do get flare-ups, how to avoid them, and just kind of find yourself a program that works for your body. And that's kind of where that transition was just like full battle royale to being a kid to like, all right, pick your battles and figure this out.
Yeah. And so that kick-started you getting into like reading and like learning about that sort of stuff, or?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was just finding, you know, the right diet changes, because I had tried every, you know, quote unquote diet they had and to suggest for Epstein Barr, but certain things would help, certain things wouldn't, and I didn't really understand which would be what. So I just kind of had to figure out my own thing, and that's where like just the help of other athletes that have been going through it, they gave out some advice that I ended up trying. It worked out well, and then I could kind of put that into my program and move on. So yeah, it was just a lot of trial and error and just help from, you know, just other people that struggle with it.
Damn, that's a wild thing to have to go through, and especially like you work your whole life racing to get to the point of Supercross, and then that kind of like fucks shit up.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't think I was gonna do too many more years of Supercross. I didn't want to be that person. They're like, oh, just give it up, like, you know, like, because I mean, we'll be real, like I was in that bubble of like making it, not making it, and you know, depending on the weekend and the track that I meshed with, that was like, you know, that would kind of make or break me. So I wasn't going to go like 10 years of trying to race Supercross and being on that bubble of like, oh, okay, like how many more years are you going to try this? So, I would have liked a bit more time, you know, racing, but you know, everything happens for a reason, and I was able to move on and kickstart, you know, the next chapter of, you know, my career anyways. So it was, unfortunate, but like I said, I got a head start at least on you know, the next chapter.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a crazy achievement, man. Like to be, I know you don't talk about it like the woman that did this kind of thing. Like I know you like to see yourself as an overall dirt bike rider, but reality is like it's fucking pretty badass that, you know, like you done something that, you know, no other woman was able to do, and like put a bike in a main event. Like fucking absolutely gangster as shit.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to like be able to like look back now and be like, oh, I did that. Like, and you know, and just seeing like, I remember some of the tracks I would go to, and like the whoops would be like up to my chest, and I'd be like, how am I going to get through this? Like, not once, but like multiple times. So, you know, just like those moments that you just remember. And I think the only thing that I really regret is being able to enjoy it a bit more, because I was hit with so much failure that I didn't really get to utilize and enjoy like the positive aspects of it, of being around so many fans and people. And there was just a lot of negativity at that point too. So it was just like I kind of got in a whirlwind of just so much negative hate that for me trying it, that it was just like, you know, okay, like focus on the positive and like try not to get sucked into that. So I definitely wish that, you know, if I had the mindset I had now, it would definitely be a bit more enjoyable. But yeah, it was just different times. I feel like, you know, that was when I was getting like hate messages of like, get back in the kitchen and like all the good woman hater stuff. So, yeah, it was just different times, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I just wish I was a little bit healthier to be able to, you know, take it on in you know, my best form.
Man, that seems so fucking weird to me that like people would hate on it in general. Like you have to be the most like, how would you put it? Like, you just have to be like a bitch of a dude to hate on a chick. You know, like literally you're a bitch.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like I don't know why or how, and it probably didn't help that like, you know, like with Race Day Live and stuff, they'll like pan over to you, and like I said, I only had one lap in me at most, so like I probably did majority of my time qualifying rolling around. And of course, like I never got put on TV when I was doing a hot lap.
Sending it, yeah.
So like from the outside looking in, you know, they're like, oh, she's just rolling around. She doesn't even belong out there. And then I'd do my hot lap and then roll around some more. So like just the timing of like making it everything worse was just happening. And I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still like, it's whenever you can be the only person in the world to do anything, like that's a very dope thing to achieve, and that people just seek that shit out. Like there's a whole book of people that are like trying to be the only one in the world to do something. It's like that's a very attractive thing for a person to like want to stand out that much, that they've achieved something no one else has done. And like, so I just think no matter what you compare it to like a man versus a woman doing it, it's like, who gives a fuck? Like that was the only person that did that thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like now looking back, like I said, like it's just such a different atmosphere that I have, and I feel like it's definitely taken on to my mindset as well, like everything I do. And it's just the mindset that comes with it, and that's to where I had it back then. And it was just like, all right, like this is what I want to do. And it started, you know, years prior to that as, you know, ArenaCross as well. And before that, it was just kind of triggered by, you know, I was kind of over racing women's outdoor, and not saying I was the best at that. I was getting like fourth, I think, you know, like, I wasn't anything special, you know. I just like looked at it and I just wasn't really having fun. So I'm like, I'm going to go do this. And, you know, ArenaCross and Supercross, I enjoy it. I love the idea of like, you can go 2-3-3, you can go 3-2, like the options are endless. So that's like kind of what attracted me, is just that you get a little bit of creative freedom. And that's like what started the idea, is because I remember, I think I hopped on Milestone Supercross with Durham, and he towed me over the triple, and then he just like started showing me stuff and like how you can go, you know, you can blitz the whoops, jump through the whoops, like just the options are endless. And like obviously with Darren, he's like full of creativity, so just watching him flow on a track, like it was just like a time where I was like, oh, this is something I've never experienced before, and I just wanted more. So I went into ArenaCross, raced ArenaCross, and then went into Supercross, and that's kind of how it all just started anyway. So it was just me taking a different path because I just wanted to have fun. That was pretty much like the baseline of it. And then it was like, oh, well, I guess if I do make it, you know, I'll be the only one, and that'll be cool too. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome, man. And it's probably, I don't know that we'd see it again too, you know, like it was definitely a pretty sweet little window that you sort of found yourself in. And like, because you would have come up in the ranks, I'm assuming, where there was like women nationals, and there was a bit of a scene. Chicks were getting factory rides, and then it sort of like went away. So it's like you almost timed that whole thing pretty well as it was.
Yes, it's funny you say that, because I did a podcast with Pingree, and he brought up like somehow through my whole career I was able to just hop in the window when it was prime time, and then I'd leave and then it would go away right out, like, you know, a year or two after I leave, and then I'd hop in this little window. It just, like, I don't know how it happened, but just same thing. Like, I actually got a fill-in ride for Trey Kennard at Geico. I think my second to last year, something like that, with the women's stuff. So I was actually able to like hop in that window when it was prime time, like we talked about. Yeah. And then I don't know, I just started losing, you know, help, and kind of just started doing things on my own, and that's when I just was like, I'm not having fun. This is like, you know, or I should be enjoying this and I'm not. So why am I here? And then that's kind of what like trailed me into ArenaCross, and that's when Bowers was dominating ArenaCross and it was getting TV time. And then I did that and raced that, got my license, and I left, and then all of a sudden ArenaCross just fizzled out. And then Supercross, so I don't think it'll ever fizzle out, but I just was able to hop in there and you know, do that whole deal, and, you know, and just hop out and then just on to the next. So I don't know, my timing has been impeccable, but I don't know how or what I was doing to make it work.
It's like that Good Luck Chuck where like every chick that he's with, the next chick, they get married, but it's like the opposite.
Yeah,
it's
just the series I'm a part of.
Yeah. You literally get divorced after every fucking time.
Yeah, that's pretty much, I feel like, how it went. I mean, I don't know. My timing was just something special, and the windows just opened up the way they did. But I mean, you would never think to go from women's motocross to ArenaCross, and that's when it was like, it wasn't even a thing to get your license that way. There were easier ways. It was easy to get your license to go to other races, but I was like, no, this is like ArenaCross was like gnarly. And I mean, if you watched it back then when Tyler was dominating, it was like full battle royale. And I was like, I don't know why, like it'll scare, you know, the toughest of men away. And I'm like, I want to go do that. Let's do it. And I don't know. I just was like, I wanted to go do it and learn the right way. And that was the best way to go. So I chose ArenaCross and wanted to get punted off the track and into the stands.
How gnarly was the racing that you're in?
Dude, it was so gnarly. I don't think there'll be a time where I ever am like so stressed out to be on a track racing.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was. I remember I got full like T-boned to the point where, and I was in like 8th. Like nothing special. And like probably even an LCQ at that. Like just like, it's just like ruthless. They will move you if you don't, like, you're not getting out of the way because there's nowhere to go.
Well, there's no space.
So like I just remember my first one actually, and it was like I only had one bike at the time, and you know, just like paying my way. And I remember I think I was one spot out, and some kid hit me so hard, and I just got so fired up because I was like, I need this spot. And I came in and just didn't even turn. I hit it. I just fully like went straight at him, and it was like, I'm taking your spot or we're both going down type thing. And I think we both went down, but I hit him so hard that the front forks of like the piece that actually goes into the fork, it bent, and then all the oil dumped out of my bike. So I wouldn't even have been able to race. But like, just like, you gotta be ruthless, and like there is craft that goes with it. But I didn't learn that until like later when I got on to Babbitt's. But yeah, I was just like, you gotta hit them. There's no way around it. You hit or be hit, and that was the way it worked.
I'm actually surprised ArenaCross isn't a bit bigger than what it is, because I was living there when Bowers was doing I was actually there like kind of this whole time that you were doing that. So like when Bowers was on, Babbitt's doing ArenaCross, I was there. That year he was battling with Coop for the championship. Like I was kind of like there through all of that. And I remember ArenaCross kind of had like a bit of a wave going on, but it really should be bigger than what it is.
I think it should be. I mean, and the way they, Feld took it to create it as an actual stepping stone. Because when I first started, like I said, it wasn't really the way to go. And then Feld took it and was like, all right, now you have to go race ArenaCross. And I think that was like one of the last years, the last year I raced it like that. And it was a different point system, and it was kind of just a different, scene or scheduling and things like that. So it was just a different kind of atmosphere. And it was so many people. It was insane. But I mean, it's a good thing to have. But yeah, it was just unbelievable how many people would show up and be a part of these things. And then it actually made it really hard to even get your points. Even though it was supposed to be easier, it was just there were so many people there that I feel like it even made it possibly harder, because now it went back into that, well, if you can do one lap fast, you're in. And that's always been like my weakness. I'm a racer. I can't do the sprint laps. So that kind of hindered me, because when I was first starting, you just had to qualify for the main and score, I think, like 50 points or something like that, or 60 points or something like that. And you had to qualify into the main, and then you get the points from the main. And then it went into the new style where you just had to get like 3 points and just make the night show. And but that's when you had like 80 entries in the one class, and it was just like you couldn't even fit yourself like through and make any room, and it was just pure chaos. So but I think it's cool. It's a whole different type of riding. Like you see some of the sections, and not some of the sections because there's only like 4, but like my thing was that I always sucked in the whoops. Couldn't handle the whoops, so I had to do the 3-3. And the 3-3 in the next section after the whoops was like hit the corner as hard as you can, seat bounce, and just pray to God that you're lined up even to make in the lane, and then to make it as far as you could. And that was like my go-to every weekend, because I just like, I don't know, whoops were my weak point.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I don't think there's not many people that throw a leg over a dirt bike that ever actually hit whoops. So
yeah, and hit them well and fast. So I mean, I think we only see that at the top level now anyway. So I'm not gonna be too bummed that whoops were my weak point. But ironically enough, when I raced against women, I was the only one that could really hit them. So it was like kind of ironic when I raced the women for like X Games and stuff. I would gap them in the whoops, but when I'd race men, they'd gap me in the whoops.
Yeah, well, you have to think like the difference physicality between men and women, like that's really where it would show up is the whoops, because like even in the men, that's a separator for men. So then it's like you take a male body versus a female body, like there's going to be a big difference there, just purely based on like strength. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, and too, I mean, then when you narrow it down of how many tall people versus short people can go fast through whoops. So
definitely.
So I mean, I'm obviously on the shorter caliber, so like I was at like not 1 default but 2 that I was just like, well, I got all odds against me to get through these things, but we're gonna try anyways.
Yeah, but that's the thing that I always go back to. Like I even had Duran Stapleton on the podcast. I'm not sure if you know Banger, but he's like Aussie dude that's over there, and he's like pumped if he gets in the mains and gets like a 17th or whatever, and he's like, man, I know I'm shit. And I'm like, bro, you're comparing yourself to Jet. Like, compare yourself to me, you ain't shit. So like anybody that's on the floor with a dirt bike at Supercross, like you're actually a fucking G.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, that he may have gotten 17th, but I mean 17th out of everybody, like in the country,
the world,
the world too. I mean, we have people that come from different, countries to come race this. So like 17th may not sound too good, but when you compare it against the entire world, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah. But you talked about the media side of like how much they got you to do. Do you ever think that if like you did it now with just the way that the world is when it comes to like gender and gender equality. Like if you said you were gay and a woman in 2023 racing Supercross, like bro, you would just red carpet rolled out. Like you would you would have people marching for you. Like that's the one thing you did in time right.
I know. I messed up on that one, but you know, can't win them all, I guess.
but they did see like what they had in a female racing Supercross, and like they really wanted to kind of like not push that, but they wanted to like use that when it come to press and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even when I was racing ArenaCross, Feld was actually helping me. And I don't think they really helped any racers, but you know, even when for ArenaCross, they were helping me with things, and then when I transferred into Supercross, they helped me as well. And obviously, the quote team I was on, it was all pretty much media based. You know, they didn't really care if I was even there on Saturday as long as I was there to show up and sign autographs. So the racing was like the back burner to it, because obviously the media potential was what everybody cared about. Which is fine. I get it, but obviously it's the opposite for me. But yeah, it was just like all of it was pretty much media based, you know, like with Feld helping me, I was very grateful that they did. But yeah, it was just a lot of media that went with it. But I mean, it's all good for you, but it was just like the added pressure of having that spotlight. It was almost like, you know, I was like, you know, the champ at the time, you know, I'm like, dude, I'm just here trying to make a night show, and you're like treating me like I'm freaking James Stewart. So I was just like, it was just definitely overwhelming too. And then it just made it that much more like upsetting when I didn't even make it. And I'm like, oh, this hype.
Yeah.
And then I don't even make it, and you're just like, oh, you just don't even want to show your face at that point.
Yeah, I could see that being such a double-edged sword, and yeah, it's like it's a big deal to everyone but you, in a sense. Like you're kind of like the last thing you think about is like, oh, I'm a chick trying to race ArenaCross or Supercross. It's just like, I'm trying to race Supercross or ArenaCross.
Yeah, and it was pretty crazy too on the media days, like the early morning stuff, which is kind of like what all the privateers do. I mean, you see them do like the early morning shift, and then on like normal human being hours is when all the factory teams will show up and start riding and do press. And they pretty much kicked all the privateers out, and then they're like, all right, yep, factory guys are up, and then they're like, no, you can stay. And I'm like, what? Because they wanted to give me as much track time as possible, and I was very appreciative of that. Like, I mean, I think my first round, Todd Gendro looked at me and was like, you can have the whole track in Texas, and was like, you can have the whole track as long as you want.
That's
and
cool.
I'm like, and I was like, I didn't expect it, but I was like taken back. And obviously, like, if anyone got that opportunity, I'm gonna take it.
Yeah.
So and so, like, he gave me, you know, I think 10, 15 minutes on the track, and I got, you know, I had to do all jumps on my own, but at least I got the opportunity to do them and, you know, just get some comfortable and, you know, get the track figured out a little bit. So, not that it helped me because I still don't make it anyways, but it's just like, it was rad because I was like, I get the track a little bit extra is huge to me. But like the times where they're like, all right, you can stay, all the privateers got to go. And then they're like, all right, you know, Vicki, Dunge, Musquin. And I'm just like, what makes you think it's a good idea for me to be with them? I'm like, I mean, like media wise, sure, we might be neck and neck, but speed wise, it ain't that.
Yeah. I'm basically a rolling tough block. Yeah,
exactly. Like I'm here to survive. They're here for like seconds to push, and like, you know, like I'm not that. I'm here surviving and trying to just like make it to the next round, and they're here just like finding every single, you know, line, quad, whatever they can find, and I'm just like, I don't think I belong here.
It must have felt so sick though when you finally did put it in the main event at Supercross though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was just like one of those things where I was just like, I didn't even know till I got back, and I think I forget who was waiting for me. I think someone from Feld was waiting for me at my pit, and they were just like arms up, and I'm like, no way, I finally did it. And just like just the biggest relief. Like, I didn't even like put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, man, I can barely do 1 lap in practice. I'm like, how am I gonna do like 7 or 8? But I just was like, I don't care, I'm going and just like enjoying it.
And it was an enjoyable experience, like when you finally did get to get out there, or?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I qualified at Vegas, and it was also one of the most... Yeah, I know. And it was one of the most excruciating pains going down Monster Alley with that much roost. It was like almost like borderline instant regret. And I was just like getting pelted to where I've never felt roost before, and just going down Monster Alley, and was just like, is this worth it? And then I was like, finally we're at the first turn, because it feels like miles when you're going down that straight. And then after that, I'm like trying to battle, and I'm like, I'm getting sick. And I was just like, all right, back it down. And I'm like, I'm not in anywhere near qualifying position anyways, so just like, just screw it, like cruise around, like jump some stuff, have fun, and just like enjoy it. And then I think either in the heat race or the LCQ, I can't remember. Oh, it was a heat race. That heat race, somehow it timed out perfectly to where I was the last one that didn't get lapped. So I pretty much had a whole lap by myself, and I was like borderline, should I just pull off? Like, I don't want to do the awkward walk of shame through this whole last lap. Yeah. And I was like, screw it. So like I just like pulled a wheelie all the way down Monster Alley, and it was the most like unreal like feeling, and just like the entire stadium lost their minds and just was screaming as loud as they could. And it was just like, once again, like a beautifully timed thing that happened to where I just pretty much did like a parade lap by myself and was holy crap, like they're just screaming for me. And I'm just like, and like to be able to hear that many people over a loud dirt bike, and just like, it's such a special feeling, like that you never forget it. And that was just like one of those moments to where I was like, holy crap, like this is insane, like what I've done.
That is so sick. And then to do it in Vegas, last round, and then you're in Vegas after it, and you just get to go and enjoy that.
Yeah, immediately into Celebration Station, that's for sure.
Oh, that's so cool, eh? Like, I guess I mean, I hadn't really thought about it too much, but you know, to hear the journey that you had to go on to kind of just get that one moment, like, it's pretty sick.
Yeah, and it's crazy. It was just like one moment, and I think the following year I'd only made one as well. I got close a couple times and had to do this awkward like like alternate, you know. So I was like, I had to like show up in gear to the starting line to see if anyone else showed up, and it was just like just a horrible walk of shame type thing, just like, well, I'm just here just in case, I guess. And yeah. So but yeah, I think I made Toronto, and I enjoyed Toronto the second year, and I was still battling with the same stuff. And yeah, same thing, I was stoked to be able to, you know, not just one-off fluke, and I wish I would have made more, but you know, it is what it is. I made 2 at least, and that's 2 more than, you know, anyone else can say, so I'll take it.
Yeah, 100%. So what was the setup like, bike wise, transporter wise? Like, how did all like the logistics work?
So not a huge knock, but I was on a Suzuki 250F, and
that's right.
That did not help my case. It was obviously, I love the bike, but
when you put it up against other bikes,
it wasn't fair. I mean, I was already at, you know, a deficit, and then unfortunately being on that bike definitely didn't help me. And I wish I would have maybe just backed off from the support and went on a different bike. But you live and you learn that it is what it is. And not knocking the bike completely, but I believe a stock KTM at the time was 1 horsepower faster than my race bike. So I just like,
at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I was just like this is the best we can get it. You know, there's nothing else we can do. And I think after we did all that, I think Jamie from Twisted helped me out and got it a little bit faster. But yeah, I was just like, I'm already, you know, I needed, not that it would have made a huge difference, but it would have given me a little bit more confidence. In a couple of the sections, like there are like triples out of the corner, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, no chance I'm making that. Yeah. Like there's just no chance. And like another kid in my practice would on a, you know, on a faster bike, cased it, and I was like, I told you I'm not making that. And like it, you know, it's just like certain scenarios where I think that if I was just maybe on something that would have given me a bit more confidence and a bit more power, like not saying I would have been 10 seconds faster, but I would have just, I think it would have been, you would have podiumed for sure. Yeah, I would have been winning out there for sure. But yeah, I think it just would have gave me a bit, you know, the confidence I needed, because that's what I was lacking.
Yeah. And so that was through like a team. You had like kind of a bit of a deal going on, like you weren't really in a position to switch.
Yeah, I had help from Suzuki at the time, not like a huge amount, but you know, they were giving me bikes, and that was super helpful. And I was like a part of a team that had like a semi and things like that. So the team was helping like all the financial part of it. So like, you know, at our disclosure, we made the bike as best as we could, you know, and that was just unfortunately like I had old parts from like I think Rockstar Husky back in the day, like that Anderson had, and I had those on there, but like it's all just outdated things. So even back then it was just outdated, you know, product. So we were doing the best with what we had, and I definitely, like, I had transportation for the bikes in the semi both years, and it was like a kind of just a privateer, like factory, or not factory, but just like a privateer team. But we had like a semi, and you know, like we looked the part at least, you know.
Yeah. And so what was your, like, you did the 2 years of doing Supercross, like, did you have Monster at the time, like sponsorship wise? Like where were you at kind of career wise? Because then you go from there. Were you doing X Games at the same time? Like, I'm just sort of trying to like line up the timeline.
So that year, that's when I think X Games was kind of going away for racing, at least, but I was still doing, I was getting invited to Best Whip at the time. And then I was like slowly getting invited to just like some jump stuff, because I had a 450, of like a personal 450 that I had just for like fun stuff. Like, that was like my Freeride bike, ramps and stuff like that. And so I was using that, as well, of just like, I didn't have like grabs, or I wasn't in like the full freestyle mode yet, but I just like I had that for just like that's when like Fitzlin was still around and really big and popular, so like I had it for there, and just like kind of just a fun go play ride bike type thing. So I had that, and then I was using that for like Best Whip and like X Games and stuff like that. So I think I competed on it the last year's Supercross, maybe. Something like that, somewhere in that time frame, and I had it for that. And I think that's when it was X Games in Texas. And I had a Suzuki 450 for that, and I was invited to Best Whip for that. And that's kind of where I transitioned after Supercross. Is I think once I did Supercross, I went into X Games Best Whip.
Yeah, I think that's one of the first times where I was really like, Vicki Golden fucking rips. It was like those first like Best Whip, and it would have been on that 450. But yeah, I think that was definitely the first time where I really was going, okay, yeah, she's like pretty much as good as like everybody else.
Yeah, I think that was also the time I just got onto militia too. So I was like really getting able to, you know, I was riding with a lot of those guys before, but then I was obviously getting invited to more like just events and stuff like that. So I was just like slowly transitioning over there, and that was the same time where I was just getting poked at to, it was like, oh, if you just cut some grabs in that thing and you know, learn a couple of tricks, you'd be making so much money. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'll do that later. I'm going to go race and just spend all my money. So, but yeah, that's kind of where that time frame was. And like, that's kind of how the transition occurred as well, is that I was kind of doing just like ramp stuff as like a little getaway from racing and doing all that. And I like started, I rented a room to Matt Byton in like 2010 or 11. And he was the one that was like, you could just go here and, you know, you want to come over to Potter's and, you know, go ride for a little bit. And that was the time when I'm like, Todd Potter's terrifying to me. And I was just like, yeah, all right. And just getting invited. He'd just kind of bring me everywhere on my days off. And I'd just go rip around with him and go to, you know, Potter's, Fies, Fitz's. Like, that's when, like, we had so many places to ride. And it was just like freestyle was just booming too. So I was just kind of mingling in with them because, you know, that was, like I said, like I wanted to take some time off from doing, you know, logging laps, and I wanted to go have some fun, so I'd go ride with them.
Yeah, I mean, you're the ultimate version of like just a person that loves to ride, and because you'll ride anything, anywhere, anytime, like you've managed to carve out this incredibly niche like career for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm like most grateful for, is that I get to do literally like whatever I want on a dirt bike. And it's like the most amazing feeling, because not many riders get to do that. And in fact, like, I mean, even the racers, they'll get yelled at if they go try and touch a ramp or go out in the hills, you know, like, and as they should. I mean, they're making, you know, millions, and, you know, championships are on the line and things like that. But, you know, like, I'm just in such a unique, special place to where if I want to go race something, let's go racing. I got a bike for it. If I want to go do, you know, a freestyle event, let's go. I got a bike for it. If I want to go try something new or go trail ride, let's go, you know, like, and I'm very blessed in a way to where social media helps captivate that. So it's kind of just come all full circle to where I just start getting to do events, and whatever kind of shows up, no matter what it is, I'm like, I'm down for it. I mean, shoot, I think a couple years ago, Fast House invited me out, and they were like, hey, you and Tyler, you want to go do like a hare and hound? I'm like, the heck's a hare and hound? Oh, sure, I guess. And I was like, well, I ain't doing it on my bike. That thing will be thrashed. And so they were like, they rented me a bike from like one of the off-road teams, and we did a hare and hound.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like I guess the way that you have been able to, I guess, like make a career out of just riding whatever. But like, how did it, I guess, when was it in your mind that because right now you would see yourself as like a business in a sense, or like you've got a job basically, but it probably didn't feel like that for a little bit. Like, did you feel a little bit like out in the wind, like, oh, I'm a racer, I'm this, I'm trying to be this, like when I stop racing maybe I'll have to get a real job? Like, where were you at before it got to like this level?
So I'm not really sure when it like fully transitioned into this, because I would say there was like a period where I was like strictly a freestyle rider, and I think that was like starting out, it was like one of the toughest times, because I had to I guess kind of make a spot for myself and not kind of just hold out. It was kind of, I don't know, it's tough to like, basically I was getting approached for a lot of shows when I first transitioned, but they were all for like dirt cheap. Yeah. So I had to hold myself out until I got paid for like what I thought I deserved. And that was like a whole different business sense that I didn't really like get, and I was learning. And so I was saying no to so many shows because they weren't what I thought I should get paid. And you know how it works. Like, you say 1-to-1 at one rate, that's your rate. Yeah. So I was going through a pretty tough time financially of like, all right, well, I got to ride and learn tricks, and I'm not making any money now because I just left racing. So I was like trying to figure that out. And once that kind of got sorted, and I was like kind of at the lowest my bank account probably had ever seen. Yeah. And it was like, all right, maybe we should start eating top ramen again type thing, and just having breadcrumbs for dinner. So I was like, all right, like, let's figure, like, it's got to happen soon. And that's when I started like transitioning, getting actually some decent shows and things like that. And, you know, things were starting to go my way. But that's also, I think, the same time I realized that I'm not a freestyle rider. And I can't do that. Like, I'm not that type of person. I'm not that type of rider. That was just, I'm not a show pony. I'm not, I'm just not that way. I'll do the shows.
What doesn't appeal to you in that way?
I think one, it's a lot of at the time it was like a lot of like the party scene and very little riding because the shows were super short, or you know, you're stuck on tour or something like that, and it was just not the scene I wanted to be a part of. And I did not ever sign up to drink my life away and occasionally ride a dirt bike. And I think too, like a lot of freestyle riders aren't really like bike skill capable. Not saying they're all like that, but some I feel like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like a point and shoot type thing. And I don't know, like one jump is not satisfying to me. It's fun for a little bit. And for shows, like I still love going to shows and being with the fans and things like that. And like still like, you know, putting on that for the fans and being around those people. But it was just like a point where I'm like, this can't be it. Like I can't do one jump for the rest of my life. Like I can't do it, you know. And like I enjoy all types of riding all the time. And so it was just to a point where I'm like, you know what, like I don't think I am a freestyle rider. I'm gonna go and do like what I want when I want, and I'm gonna just see kind of where it takes me. And that's like slowly too of like being on like with the right brands like Fast House, where like they don't care, like, you know, like they're like not really like that's their brand. Like, oh, do you want to come race Two Stroke National? I'm like, heck yeah I do. And do you want to come race Dan there? I'm like, yep. And so like just all these things started opening up to where I could be what I wanted to be, which is ride everything. Like I truly love to like be able to have a motorbike and go, you know, do 30s, and then the next day I'll go ride ramps and have fun and work on tricks. Like it's just, I think I'm just not a freestyle rider, you know, like it's just not my nature, and I'm okay with that. But, you know, I'll still do freestyle shows, and it's still super fun to me because I don't have to do them 24/7. So it's it's just like a niche that it's just another like, you know, area I get to dabble in, you know. And that's kind of like where I truly enjoy being able to like, I love learning new tricks and like, you know, that art of it. But I also, like I said, like I love going to do like random races, going to tracks and like just traveling and, you know, riding different tracks, different, you know, free ride setups. So I think that's like too where Tyler kind of pushed that and made it an actual like, not just a
like
little
a
wedge.
now.
He truly like opened the door to make it to where it is a category now. It's like, it's a straight up thing where you can go and do, and it's known and seen. So he definitely like paved the way. And I think that kind of goes back to like my roots too. Like I didn't grow up going to tracks. I grew up riding in the hills. Like that's what we did. And that's probably where most of my bike skill came from as well, because it wasn't a perfectly groomed track. We trail rode out and we cut a track in the hills, and it never got groomed. It never got watered unless it rained, and that's what we rode on. So like it was just like that's what I grew up on, and like those are my roots. So like that free ride vibe is kind of just like I have drawn towards it because of, you know, like that's just my upbringing.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. So when did Monster get involved? Because I feel like for a person like you that is dabbling in all these different places, it's like you're like a free surfer or a skater that just makes like video parts. Like there's a few people in our industry that kind of have that title. Like I think Bereman's one of them, Axel's one of them, Twitch probably has that lane that he created for himself where it's like you just get paid to exist as a rider, and it's like your job is just to capture it or represent it. And it's such a unique kind of title. And I feel like a sponsor like Monster and, you know, and Fast House as well, like they're kind of brands that give you that freedom and like almost, I think especially with Monster, it's not so much like the support as much as the platform too, you know, like you get reposted on their socials or the website or the YouTube, like that shit's getting views, you're getting exposed, like they need you need them. It's like it's a pretty cool relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started with Monster in 2019, and it was actually, I was kind of like just, you know, talking with them beforehand, and I just like I didn't quite have enough to like push me over, like to, you know, like, all right, here's your contract type thing. You know, I just needed like a little bit more and of what I was doing. And that was kind of the same time where I think I got invited to X Games for Best Whip again. And then I was starting to do Evil Live 2. So kind of, I think that just like bubble of things where I'm like, that's kind of was like, that's enough to, you know, push the top heads and get them, you know, what I needed and help me give the platform. And obviously with Evil Live, Axel was already on board with it. So like, what's better than one monster athlete too? Yeah. So it was just like, I think just all the pieces were fit to be able to captivate and be, you know, get brought on board through those two events being kind of so close together. And that kind of just sparked everything. And then we started just kind of rolling from there. And it's been unreal, to be honest. I mean, the places they've been able to take me and be able to do, and it's been insane. Like one of the best events I think we've ever gotten to do was like when we did Amsterdam for MX Nations in Assen. And me, Axel, and Twitch got to do like the Bit Bike Nations and do freestyle shows for all those fans. Like, I don't know, it was just such a cool experience, and it was all thanks to Monster. So it's just like just being affiliated with those brands, it's cool to see where like they'll take you.
Is it the kind of deal where it's like, okay, sign here, here's your Monster contract, here's your hat, here's your helmet? Is that literally like a overnight life-changing kind of deal?
Yeah, for sure. For me, it was because I mean, I grew up with nothing, and I like fought for every dollar that I've made. So, and I don't ever take that stuff for granted either. You know, like I will make sure, like I'll count, you know, every penny and make sure, like, I don't know, that's the way I'm wired, because that's the way I was brought up. Like money is precious because it's easy to not have.
Yeah,
so,
and it's hard to make.
And it's hard to make, especially with what we're doing. So when I got that, it was just like, you know, like just a feeling of relief. Like,
I bet,
obviously, it's just like, obviously the money side of things is like, oh, like you, like to have a contract is a super huge relief. But just to have like, I don't know, like in our world, like to be, have an energy drink sponsor, it's like, it's such a huge, like, a barrier to break, and just to be almost like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like it makes something of you, and you kind of are more like respected that way, and more, you just like, all right, she's here to play, you know, like, and it just kind of gives you that little extra confidence, and it gives you a little extra respect around the community. Like, it's just like, it does more than what you think it does. And like, I don't ever take that for granted, because like I get to put on a helmet with a Monster Claw, and I know what that represents, because, you know, all the people at the, you know, the company, you know, they believed in me enough to give me this. So I'm gonna, you know, do everything I can to keep it.
Yeah, I mean, it has more of an effect than what people think. And like, obviously there's the relief that you would get from someone like writing a check for you every month, or like however the deal's structured, like to take that financial pressure out of it, and that just lets you create, like, because essentially it's like you're an artist in a sense, where you have this bike, you have this two wheels, and then you get to go out and you get to come up with a new trick, or ride it in a new place, or, you know, do a show here, or you kind of have this like creative freedom now. And, you know, I think Bereman's such a great example. Like, do you remember when Bereman got the Red Bull helmet, and there was so many people being like, why the fuck did Bereman get a Red Bull helmet? You know, like there was that chatter going on, and it's like, look at what he did with that. Like his career and it wasn't like his career, it wasn't like they made that. it's like, here was this guy that had so much talent and so much to offer, but he didn't have the financial backing. He didn't have that representation. He didn't have the platform. And then you see that it's like, okay, kid, what do you want to do? And then he goes and does the craziest shit, the levels that he's taken, dirt bikes to in the lane that he wants to, is massive, and that is because he had that support.
Absolutely. And I think the most special thing about Tyler, outside of the way his insane brain works, is that you see like other riders, they do all of these tricks, you can probably, they have like a book of tricks, and Tyler does just sick whips, knacks.
Yeah.
And you could just watch him for hours. Like his trick list is like you can count it on one hand, and it's just like I could sit there and watch it all day and just like ride with him all day and just watch the way he works, and you're just like, what? Like it just like it's truly like I do it all the time, like, and he's just like, him as a person is so like contagiously inspiring. And I think that's what you can't get from a screen, is what people don't see as well, is that like even if he's there and I just get to ride with him for the day, I'm just like, all right, let's go, what can we do? And it's just like I don't know, he's just very contagious the way he is, and in all good ways, and well, some bad, but he's just mental. And it's been a blessing to be able to go to Imagination with him all these years and just watch him do his thing.
Yeah, that's such a good point with him, that all these guys are getting paid to do like double backflips, triple backflip. Like, where's that shit gonna stop? And then Bereman's just like, ear on. and everyone's just like, but
exactly.
Right when he signed that Red Bull deal, the first thing that he did, the first trip, was he went to Farm Jam. And you remember that fucking video that just went crazy viral of him fifth gear turn up.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like, it's just like that right there.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's crazy because not just one of those videos have gone viral. Like multiple ones of his turn-ups like don't make any like legitimate scientific sense.
Yeah.
Yet he does it all the time, and every time it's just like, how? Yeah. It's mind-blowing sometimes.
Yeah, it's funny though, like now that I think about it too, people said the same shit about Axel when he was on Monster. Like even people were like talking shit on him getting a Monster helmet, and you look at that now, it's just like, what the fuck? That guy's on some other shit too.
Yeah, and I think that's what's special about, like these brands doing that, is that they see something that most people, or all 90% of people don't, and they see it for a reason, and that's what like, and then you give them the tools, like you said, to do what they see that you can do, and then it happens, and everyone's like, oh well, where'd that come from? And everyone, all the brands are like, we told you, like we knew it, like they were expecting it, and I mean with Axel, I don't know if anyone could expect the enormous stature that he's created and the things that he's done, but I believe that like obviously like his family saw it, like everyone saw the potential is there, and it's funny enough that once he left racing, it all came true.
Yeah, and there must be, and I mean you could speak to this, but there must be something that it does for your own level of self-belief, like when Monster came to you and said, here's the deal, here's your hat, here's your helmet, like you're part of the crew. There must be something that it does internally for your confidence as well that like helps you reach that next level.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's kind of what happened to me as well. And I started just like, you get the feeling of, well, for me, I'm kind of like the odd man out, or odd woman out, I should say, is that I always never really felt like I belonged. Like I was just doing this and I was there. Yeah. And then once, I got the Monster helmet and things like that, I'm like, okay, so I was doing the right things and I belong now, and you know, I have a purpose. And that was just kind of like a relief of like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like, there's, you know, these people believe in me for all the reasons, because I think with like a fast house, they see you more as a human and not as an athlete. So it's a comfortability thing with them, or their family. And if I get hurt for 2 years, they will be right by my side, because I, to them, am a good human that will be there no matter what. And that's a comfort thing on one side of the spectrum. But as an athlete, like, you want to have that, like, that drive forward to like, all right, like almost like the make or break thing. And like, I think Monster is that for a lot of athletes.
And so did you have, like, when you were like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not crazy, like, did you have a vision of what you thought your life could be, and it's sort of the life you're living now, but you just didn't know if anyone else actually believed in it as well?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, it was getting to the point where I was starting to like feel like more respected and doing things like trick wise or riding wise that was more respected, and it wasn't just like, oh, the girl can do the jump. You know, and that's like kind of how it started.
Wait, that's me. The girl can do the jump anytime I do a big jump.
So it escalated from that, because like that's kind of like why I got started in the first place, because like I was just jumping, you know, 75 because one, that's all there was. There wasn't a ramp pushed in or anything, so I was just like jumping it for fun. And then it was like, I remember one of my first shows, it was like, oh, we need a girl. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't do any tricks. I can like kind of whip and knack. And they're like, we don't care. We just need a girl to jump 75. And that's how it like started. So like, that's literally, it was like, we need a girl and the girl can do the jump. And that's like legit how it started. And then I'm like, well, I can't just keep like I need tricks. Like, this can't go on like this. And then that, like, it escalated into like learning tricks. And then I started doing certain tricks that like not even a lot of guys would do. I mean, granted, they're all, you know, just upright tricks, but just like certain tricks or things like that, they're like, oh, we only a couple riders can do those. So it was just like certain things started coming to me, and I was like pushing to learn those things more. And that's when like certain tricks were more appealing too, is just kind of the added confidence of like, all right, like I want to do not your average tricks that everyone you see all the time, you know, and just kind of get creative or add my style into them, and just like push from there, and just really try and separate myself, even though I'm already different. But in my eyes, I wasn't any different at that point. And that's like when I think things started shifting, because I was like, well, I'm not any different than your best freestyle rider, even though like on paper I didn't have double flips or even single flips or whatever it was. I was just like, in my brain, nothing's different. I just don't, those tricks just don't cater to me. Like, I just don't, like, I don't like the way they look, or I don't like feel like that would fit my style. And I was just like, I want to go after certain tricks that I feel like appeal to me, or that I enjoy doing, or that I think look sick. And then that's like when I started like chasing after, you know, different avenues in that kind of scenario, once I first got on board, and like kind of just like fueled the fire of like, I want to, like, I'm seen as the same, but I still want to be different.
Yeah. And I think that's like one thing that it seems like with you, where you just hold yourself as a rider, and it's not like you're not a girl rider, they're not guy riders. Like, that's probably one of the keys to your success. And like, you'll hear Twitch say all the time, like, oh yeah, she's just one of the boys, you know. Like, was that a big part of the mentality, is to like not think of yourself as a girl in a sense?
Yeah, it's safe to say, especially with my crew, that my girl card was revoked a long time ago. And like,
that's so fucked up.
Yeah, but I fully like I need it. Like, for me to operate the way I do, like, I fully need it, because like the days that I ride like shit, Jeremy will be like, why are you riding like a little bitch? And just like call me on it, and I'm just like, I don't know, and just like it just like works, you know. And like, or if there's like a jump, like I want to do are out in the hills. And he like looks at me, he's like, quit being a girl, go do it. Like, what are you waiting on? Or he just like pull me and he's like, hey, let's go. And just like, there's no option. And like, and if I don't do it, which rarely ever happens because I don't want to hear about the aftermath of it, is I'll just go do it because I avoid, like, I don't want to get the whole end of the stick of just getting shit talked on. So I was just it's just easier if I go jump it than have to listen to it all. So that's kind of like how it turned into. And then, but like those boys are like what kind of like make everything work, because like I do owe a lot to Jeremy, to Axel, to Tyler, and you know, all those dudes, because they don't treat me like a girl. They treat me as if like, you know, I'm just another rider learning another trick or trying to do another jump, and they see the skill and the technique that goes behind it, and that's all they see. They don't see, well, oh, she could get hurt doing that. It's nothing ever crosses their mind. It's like, hey, like, quit thinking about it, go do it, because they fully believe that I can. So even if I don't fully believe in myself, as long as they tell me, I'm like, all right, cool, let's go.
Yeah, it's such like I've thought about it so many times, and I just see you in like their videos, or I'm like watching any of your stuff. It's such a cool dynamic to have a group of guys that are like the top of the top, and at one time, like, dude, think about Twitch, crusty demons, 20 years old. Like, think about that dude having like a chick in his crew riding all the time. Like, it's probably the last thing that he thought would have ever happened in the lifestyle that those guys were living. But so you got that group of guys that's like macho, fucking traveled the world, just absolutely living like savages for so many years, and then they're now, I don't know whether I'm making it more dramatic than it is, but it's like, so you've got like that crazy end of like the male spectrum, and then you've come into this crew, but then you're also bringing this super high level of riding that they almost like can't deny. And then those two worlds have come together, and now it's like such a rad crew. And it's like almost seemed like it's crossed any of those barriers now. I don't know. I think it's just such a really cool and unique thing. It's really cool on their end, and it's also really cool on your end. Like, everyone's pushed a certain level to be there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, bringing back to your point, I don't think that there would ever be a time where, you know, multiple times where Jeremy didn't want to jump something, and then there I go and I jump it before him, and he's like, oh, he's just like, I gotta do it now. Like, there's just no option, you know? Like, so it just kind of goes full circle of like both sides, like you said. Like, if I jump something, they're like, oh, now we gotta jump it for sure. Like, even at like, I think it was in Assen for MX Nations. It was like cold and windy and rainy, and the European setups are a little bit different and shorter and steeper. So I was just like, we were all kind of nervous a little bit, just to like, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to think about the smallest setup we have at home, and I'm going to try and case it. And like, that's what it felt like. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to try that. And I ended up greasing it, and I look over and Jeremy needs a towing from me. And I'm just like, you never like think about like Jeremy wanting like a towing from a chick. Like, I don't think like that, like the kid you spoke about in Crusty Demons would ever fast forward and think he'd be following a chick off a jump.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what makes it so cool, I think, is like I think that just goes to show like your level of like undeniability. You know, like there's a point where you cross where it's just like you can't deny the level of riding. Like, you just can't put a label on this apart from what it actually is. But then like you could still be riding that level, and all of those guys could be fucking dickheads still, you know? So then to have like those guys be cool enough on their end to like, it gets to that level, and then they always go, yeah, all right, it is what it is. Like, she's just an absolute gangster.
Yeah, I think one of the most surreal moments was actually last year at Imagination. And Tyler he was like, you know, barely making it on the bike in time frame for because of his arm. and then his ankle was bothering him as well. So I came in a day early and started jumping some of the stuff with him. And then everyone else showed up, and he was starting to tow everyone, but he just didn't want to ride anymore. He was hurting. And so I kind of stepped in as like camp counselor, and I just started showing him some lines that we had already jumped. And I roll up back over to him, and then like all of them come to me and like, hey, can I get a tow-in? And then like I'd turn over Tom P. He's like, can I get a tow-in? And then Axel, hey, can I get a tow-in? I'm like, it was just like a surreal moment for me of like, all these gnarly dudes are asking to follow me off of a jump. And I'm just like, it was just like, I don't know, it's just so surreal. Like even to this day, like I've done so many things, and then just to turn and like Axel of all people, like trust me enough to like follow me over a jump and like want to trust my timing over his own. So it's just like, I don't know, it's just so surreal sometimes, even like on my own capabilities of where it's come.
Yeah, and I think that is cool, and there's such like a pressure these days for like equality, and like we shouldn't talk about this, and like it doesn't matter if you're a girl, and it doesn't matter if but it's like at the end of the day, I kind of almost feel like that robs you of something, because it's like it is pretty special what you've been able to achieve, and like the work that you've put in, and there's no, anytime you're the only one doing something, that I think that there's like, that's hard no matter what, like even if you've got other guys around you, even if you're like whatever, like to be the only one like existing and doing the things that you're doing, like it actually is worth celebrating, you know, like it's sometimes we want to just gloss over all this shit because it's like not politically correct or it's not whatever, but in my eyes, I'm like, fucking, this is rad. Like, here's a chick that's doing a thing that no other chick is doing. And then, like you said, you get some of the best dudes in the world are leaning on, like, your knowledge and your advice. I'm like, let's fucking be really pumped on this, because that's actually super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like, you're right. Like, it's kind of crazy times we live in now to where equality is pushed, but I mean, when it comes down to it, like, I wouldn't be where I am if everything was equal. And, you know, and at the same time, I am who I am, and I've done what I've done. And it's special because of two things, is because I'm different. And the second thing is like, I am at an extreme disadvantage. Like, there's no way around it. I'm just purely not as strong. Like, it's just like how the world works, you know, like, we're different. So I think that, you know, like, when I like take a step back, and I think that's when, you know, especially like at competition times, when I get invited to go to X Games or I go to Imagination and I get, you know, like 7th or something, and I'm just like so frustrated at myself. And then I kind of have to take a step back and realize, well, one, there's only, you know, a X amount of top like men in the world that get to come to this. And then if I take a step further back, if there was a women's category, it would just
24
it would just I would just be me. So like kind of like it gets frustrating, because like my days of basically winning are virtually not over, but I don't want to seem like a Debbie Downer when I say it, but like for me to win, like that's such a high level, and like I'm real to where like maybe I won't reach that level, but it's frustrating when you come from like a winning background, or like you know, top of like the women's categories, and then you come into all men's categories and you're kind of just like the little fish in a big pond type thing, and you're just like I just rode my heart out and I got like 7th, and you're like sick.
Well,
but I you know, it's humbling at the same time, you know.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, because it's like you're actually going to all this shit wanting to win. Like that again shows the level of gnarliness that you're at.
Yeah, I mean, and it might sound stupid to think like that, but why would I aim for 5th?
No, it doesn't at all.
It doesn't make sense. So I'm going out there and leaving everything on the table to win. And if I come up, you know, astronomically short of winning, that is what it is. But if I aim for 5th and get last, the blow isn't as hard, but I'd rather just aim for the stars and come up as short as I come up. But yeah, I mean, for me, like, I go there and I want to win, and like, I'll put that effort into winning. And if I come up short, which happens pretty much all the time, I'd rather do that than aim and be like, well, I think 5th is manageable. Like, no one talks like that, you know, like, and that's not the way I'm going to hold myself to. I'd rather aim small and miss than, you know, aim for, you know, something kind of not great and make it, you know, like, I get to make it goals achievable. But those results wise, like, I'll never aim like that. And like, I did have like a lot of personal goals that I set for myself that had nothing to do with like results based, and I ticked all those boxes, which I'm super stoked on. And that was like a huge milestone for me, even though I didn't even make it to the competition last year. But you know, like, I ticked so many personal goals off that I was just like, hell yeah, like, that was sick.
Yeah, we actually had Mick Fanning in here yesterday, like the professional surfer, and he was saying that was like a real big part of his competitive life. Like, when he kind of started seeing like a sports psychologist and stuff, he was like, I stopped focusing on like the end result as much as just like, he said he set like 20 goals for the weekend, and then those small personal goals became his focus. And then he was like obsessed with ticking. He said even the way he walked down to the beach before a heat, like, all these little tiny goals. And then he said a lot of times if I did all those goals, I'd do really well at the contest. But he said like he actually found making those smaller goals within the bigger goal actually a pretty helpful thing in the process.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that was like my biggest thing coming into Imagination last year, was those, like, I mean, they were small but pretty, you know, big goals that were personal for me. And coming in there, and I was just like, it was just a lot of dig deep moments that no one even saw. And it was just like, I like, this is what I like set out for myself. And I think a handful of them were just like doing things on my own. Like, the years prior, I kind of relied on Tyler to kind of get over a lot of the jumps, which is, I mean, no one's going to knock me for it. Yeah.
Everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't the only one, but I was just kind of looking at it, and like, Tyler has so much on his shoulders that I was just like, I want to do this like on my own. And like, I mean, granted, there were some times I still followed Tyler, but I was just like, I want to do this on my own. Like, I don't want to follow anyone there at all. Like, if I have to follow Tyler a couple times, yeah, that's fine. But like, off like the big stuff that scares me, like, to where I don't really need to, like, the stuff that I don't need to aim for, like, K-Dub's Kingdom side is full of like, you have to like aim for a specific spot. So I get like, I followed Tyler on a handful of stuff over there, but on the other side, I was like, you're doing this on your own. Like, don't, like, no following, like, you just go with your gut, because like, that's what I needed to trust myself in, is just like, feel your gut and like, go with what that takes you. And it, you know, like, I did the 90-120 on my own. I did one of the ones over the like, just the little fast house box thing. I did that one on my own. I did pretty much everything on that side on my own, and I didn't follow anybody. And that was just like a tick box for me. And same thing, like, everyone was kind of like seeing what Tyler was doing and kind of like playing that into their runs. And I was like, I don't want to do, like, I want to find stuff for myself that no one else has jumped. Yeah. And I found a couple things, like, I think 3 things on K-Dub's side that were, one with the help of Rife. Rife is like a friggin' legend in our sport that no one knows really about, but he's one of the guys that works for Dream Tracks, and he pointed one out, and I'm like, dude, that one's sick. But I had to jump it on my own. So it was just like finding all these things to tie my run together that I had to figure out on my own. So I went over to K-Dub's side, and I found 3 things that I had to jump on my own that nobody else even jumped. And I did that on my own. And then my next thing was, I want to jump something before anybody, before Tyler. Like, I want to do it and be the guinea pig. And it just, like, it's not easy to do when you have Tyler, when you have Josh Hill, like, dudes that have impeccable timing, and they're like, they'll jump it without thinking, and they're normally right anyways. So like for me to get all my ducks in order, for me to aim, to calculate, feel the like just all the things that have to happen for me to jump something, I got to be moving pretty quick to jump something them. Before yeah. And like dudes just like like they're like moto towards it. They're like almost like little kids on like 50s when they're like getting ready to get released. They're just like inching, just inching at it. So like they're just all chomping at the bit. And there was one, and we were trying to link K-Dub's side from the other side, the 130 over. And I like look at Steve, one of the guys that he's like the Red Bull TM, and he was standing at like kind of like a good zone. I'm like, hey, everyone's over there like looking at something. I'm like, can I jump this? Because like you kind of need clearance for that one because of all the moving pieces and stuff. And he was like, go for it. And then Tyler starts like, then they start coming over as I like check it real quick, and I just rush over and turn, and I'm like, no, they're not beating me, I'm doing it. So I just like got on it, clicked gears, and then went over the 130 and was able to grease it first. And it was just like one of the best feelings in the world to be able to be like, I did this before anybody else did, and I did it on my own. So like it's just like, no one would think that's a huge deal, but for me, like that's huge personal goal, especially like up against those guys that will jump it in 0.2 seconds.
Oh man, it is cool. Like I've been around Tyler at Farm Jam and some other places where you see guys sizing things up, and to be the first one to jump a jump of like serious consequence. It's actually a super big deal, eh? And like you said, the competition's quite fierce to pull something like that off. And there's some dudes that are so natural with it. Like Tyler's crazy natural with it. Hill's crazy natural with it. Hanson's crazy natural with it. Like they can just look at shit and just know what to do. And you're like, fuck, it's a crazy skill in itself. And I could imagine that, like you doing that at Imagination this year, like the level of confidence that then you would take into all these other scenarios where you'd be faced with that same kind of situation.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, like you said, like they have just timing that I've never like experienced before. And like, I still don't have like, compared to them, I feel like I don't have timing. But the only way to get better is to truly like just do it on your own and figure it out. So it was just, like I said, a lot of dig deep and like, all right, like trust yourself. And like you did all the work, you did the riding beforehand. Like you did as much as you could to prepare for, something like this that you can, and just like trust yourself and like dig deep and like truly like, like the consequences are a little bit more there. So like you truly just kind of got to dig deep and trust yourself. In my scenario, and I was just like, all right, like I feel like I have the timing in me, I just have to see if it works. So that was kind of like where I was just like, trust your timing and it'll work out. And that's kind of where I was. And it was the one thing that ended up hurting me, because the last jump that I had to make my run work, we just ended up having like wind delays, and then one of the riders in my practice group got hurt, so I like didn't get to jump this jump that Baker kind of made a lip for me off the side. And I just was like, well, I only get to jump it in my warm-up run, and it's like super, super windy, and I was just super uncomfortable and just went for it anyways, and then just completely misjudged everything, went to flat, went into the bushes, and just like that was the end of that. But I just took away all those small victories that were kind of a big deal to me.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. And so what would you say your like relationship with fear is when it comes to that sort of stuff? Like, how do you get over it? And like, what level of fear do you have? Like, is it something you just try and block out, or?
Yeah, for me, it's just, I feel like I have all the capabilities and the talent to do it. It's just basically like not letting fear take over. And like, I think even with like the first year Imagination, where like, and the second, like just pretty much the first 2 years, I was like, man, I don't know if I belong. Yeah. And I was just doing things out of pure fear before it even like got to me, because I was like, if I let fear take on, like if I let fear in for like 4 more minutes, I'm like, I'm not doing this. This is too scary. So I was just like, you got to do it before your brain like takes over. And that's kind of like what I do now, and just deep breath and trust myself. Like I've done all the work, and I've rode so many things and so many different avenues that I think helps in that scenario where if we're at these gnarly jumps, to just really trust myself. And if like the fear steps in, and that's kind of where I also look to like look to Jeremy or Tyler, and they kind of give me that last little like boost of confidence where I'm like, do you think this is the speed type thing? And they're like, yep, you got it, go for it. And I'm like, okay, I got it. And I just do it. So it's just like, I don't know, I'm lucky enough to have those kind of people around me to add that little extra in. And it doesn't even have to be someone that knows what they're talking about. And as long as I trust them and they're like, that sounds like the right speed, I'm like, okay, that's all I needed.
That's awesome, man. I'm like, anytime I'm around anyone that goes, what do you think about this? I'm like, I'm out. I don't know. I'm not good enough. Don't ask me. I don't want to borrow it.
Dude, it's funny because Jeremy's normally like that person for like all of us. Like we go to him, like he's just like one of those dudes that like he hears something and he knows like the speed. Like he can just like, I don't know, he's just seen so much that he just has that.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at, I think year 2, I was just like in a super low confidence for year 2 of imagination. And I was struggling to really pull the trigger on I think it was a 130 over the quarter pipe. And I like stood there next to him and I like looked at him like, do you think that's good? And he was like, yeah, you got it. And I like did it stoked. And then after, like, I just like remember, and I'm just like, I remember him like Axel coming up to him about something that's like super ridiculous, and like Axel will do the same thing, and I'll be standing with Jeremy and Jeremy's like, yeah, you got it. And then Jeremy will look at me and be like, I don't know if he's got it. And I'm like, he probably did that to me.
Oh, that's so good. He's a very special dude, old Twitch, isn't he?
Yeah, he's like Tyler always says, he's the nicest asshole you'll ever meet, and that stays true to him for sure. And I've kind of like we're a handful of years apart, obviously, but we grew up in like the towns next to each other, and we were like at the same local motocross track and stuff like that. So like our parents were kind of friends and things like that.
Oh,
so,
no way.
Yeah, so we came from the same crappy, sketchy East County living. So I think that's kind of like where I look at him in a special light, because like we came from the same crappy town where, you know, like it was pretty much drug addiction left and right, and just like, you know, just living off of pretty much nothing. So just to see like him and how he hasn't changed and he stayed true to himself the entire time through having nothing to having everything is super, super, you know, like humbling to me, and such a good like role model in a sense. Hopefully he doesn't listen to this and starts talking shit that I'm actually complimenting him, but yeah, he's just such a, like, I don't know, like he is actually like a genuinely like great human, and he may give us a shit ton of shit to deal with, but it's all in love.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point too. Like if you go back, and for me, like the reference is watching some of the, like, I can't remember. There was like a doco that they did on Twitch, or maybe it was like Adventures of Twitch and Scummy, or like one of the videos. And man, like he grew up fucking so broke, like his teeth were all fucked up. You know, like he had like nothing, and like he's rich now, and he's the same motherfucker.
Yeah, but he won't hesitate to help anybody out. Like he knows like what it's like and where he came from, and he respects the people that are going through similar things to where they're pretty limited financially, and they're trying to do something with themselves, and he'll respect that, and he'll give you the shirt off his back if you're willing to do it.
Yeah, and to go through and have the career that he's had, and you know, like to make a bunch of money, to be super successful, but then to just not change, like just to be the same dude, you know, like, yeah, you get your teeth fixed and you get some nicer shit, but like you're the same guy. Like that's a pretty underrated achievement, I think, especially, you know, in the time of fucking social media and all the shit. Like that stuff is just, it's so easy to change you when you go through something like that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, I don't know, I think maybe him having, you know, Katrina super young, maybe I think that was like a big part of his,
Yeah.
you know, he had a kid super young, and then having, you know, the boss lady, Susie, she's like, she doesn't play. Yeah, she's a savage. So, yeah. She's just like, I don't know. It's just like having her even around, like for me, like it's just like such like a good, like, person to have around. And like she's just, like I said, she's the boss lady, and she'll tell you how it is, and everybody needs that, including all of us. So she's like, I don't know, she's just such a good like person to have around. For obviously Jeremy has been with her for countless years, but just to have her, you know, on all of our sides as well, to go to for advice, and we actually, like, a lot of us go to both of them for so much advice, just life.
Yeah. Because, man, he's been through so much in his career, like, you know, from where he come from to then Crusty Demons exploding when he was like 17, 18, going through everything that, you know, you go through on that wave, Metal Militia, then the Metal Militia goes away, and then, you know, like, even, I guess it's like, it's ups and downs in terms of like what you would call success for him too, you know, and then I think like the whole Dew Tour era, where he was so dominant in that era of like freestyle as a competitor. Then he goes to the, you know, like the Freeride, like he was kind of one of the pioneers there. And then to just like, he's hit it massive with DBK, which is so cool to see, you know, like from a business and a financial standpoint. And then it's like he's almost really taken on a responsibility to help like the next generation as well. Like he's honestly had a crazy cool career in life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he has truly like paved the way, like granted, like his freestyle career, but like even rolling back to like when he stopped competing and started paving, like really, I mean, not paving the way, but like fully opening a door for basically everything that we do now. Like most people don't really realize, but he was the guy that went to his sponsors, was like, hey, look, like I'm not competing anymore, I'm gonna go do video parts, or you in or you out, and they're all like, we're in. So like he completely opened that whole door, like, and it's like branched off and formed into probably like kind of what freeriding is now. But he's the guy that like really like he straight up is, obviously he's told us multiple times, like he's just went straight to his sponsors, like, this is what I'm doing, are you sticking with me? And they're all like, yep. So then he went and did video parts, and like that just opened up this whole new world that moto hasn't truly seen.
Yeah, because you think about every other action sports industry, like skating, there's dudes that will get paid a shit ton of money, sell a fuckload of skateboards, and they'll never do a contest in their life. There's surfers that like will fly around the globe. Yeah, they'll fly around. They'll go on trips. They'll just chase waves down. They'll have their own, you know, content, whatever. And like for whatever reason, moto just never really developed that until Jeremy came along. Really.
Yeah, and I don't know what sparked in his head to change that direction, and maybe because, like, you know, the competition was going maybe in a direction he didn't really care for, or what the reasoning was exactly, but I'm glad he did, because I think that created a door, like you said, like we're artists, and I don't think we were looked at as artists until he made that so.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. So what county did you grow up in?
We grew up in, like, it's San Diego County, but it's like East County of San Diego. It's he grew up in Santee, and I grew up in the town next to it was El Cajon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's kind of like really kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, you could damn near throw a rock to Mexico, that's pretty much says about where we live. But yeah, it was just a place where, like, I don't know, you just, like, I wasn't like growing up, like, it was just different. Like, you don't go by yourself anywhere. You lock your doors everywhere you go, lock your car everywhere you go, and like watch your back. Like, I don't know, it was just like, that's just how I was growing up living. Like, and we moved in from, like, when I was like real young, we were like a few blocks down, but that was like the sketchier part of the sketchy town. So we moved in and moved down a couple blocks that was less sketchy than where we were, and did that kind of thing. But yeah, I grew up, and that was just how we lived. I don't know, I didn't know any different, and I just knew that my parents worked their butts off to make sure, like, I could ride when I wanted to, or ride when they could afford to take me and things like that. And I just seen, like, they worked their asses off to make it happen. So, they gave me a good work ethic just by, doing what they do.
So what did your parents do, and like how did you get into riding to start with? Are you only child, or you got sisters, brothers?
I have an older brother, but we're not really on good terms. He pretty much went down the wrong path when he was like 16 and just kept making bad decisions. So ultimately, he kind of just showed me what not to do in life, and that's pretty much what I got from him. So, but yeah, my dad was like, he did a little bit of everything. He was, I think, a gardener for a while and did that. When I started riding and kind of getting into it, he started taking photos at the track and selling them just to locals, and just being, like the local photography guy and trying to make money while we were at the track. My mom was a bookkeeper and accountant for like a hardware company. So nothing fancy. They had jobs, and thankfully the company my mom worked for, the boss was like an uncle to me and still is. So he like helped a lot of like my racing and helped financially to get me through some tough times when I needed things, and bought me my first truck when I was 16. So like he definitely helped out and got me places where, my parents were just kind of financially not able to take me. And but it was just just different type of living of just like not having much to go by. But I saw like how hard they worked to give me what little they were able to give me, and I just was like, I'm not gonna waste it. It's always interesting the mentality that gets, I guess, like developed when you go through those kind of like situations, when you see your parents working. Because I was in a similar situation where it's like I could see that my parents just worked like crazy hard, but didn't really have like that much to show for it. And does like a weird thing when you're a kid, like I think it can either point you in one direction where you're like, fuck it, I'm out, like too hard basket on like life in general, or I think it can like give you a real sense of drive and motivation and urgency to like make some shit happen for yourself. Yeah, I mean, I was ever in a point where like I never was like angry or like, why don't I have this? Like I was never that kid growing up. I just was like, sometimes I would see, like I would race against, like Team Green kids. And just like, like this, like it doesn't, like this sucks, but like it just, like the only times I really like were like, man, like this is tough was when my bike was broken and we didn't have anything to fix it, and I was just riding whenever the bike would last. That's when we rode it, and I was changing bald tires for less bald tires, and we were just doing things, and I'm just like, man, like sometimes you just look over at like Team Green or something and you're just like, like that'd be cool. Wouldn't that be the life? But I never was like angry towards my parents, like, oh, why don't you guys have money, or why don't you guys work harder? Like, nothing like that. I was just like, like they taught me like, you work for what you got, and this is what we have, and we worked hard for it. So I appreciated everything we had. And my parents were parents. They could be multimillionaires, and I didn't get to spend any time with them. But like it's just like I got time with them, and like we had a good family around us, so I couldn't complain then. when I was like 13, that's when everything kind of started changing. My dad he was a rider too as well, and they did like a local vet day, but they intermixed it with like quads and things. So a quad hit him off the face of a jump and almost kind of Chad Reeded him like at Redbud or at Millville, and like shot him off the side without of his bike, and he ended up being paralyzed from that. So that pretty much, that changed completely, like full circle, everything changed. So it was just a whole rude awakening for sure.
So your dad rode before, like obviously like he has like your older brother, so that was, you kind of just grew up going to the track with them, and then you just jumped in on it, like you didn't want to let them have all the fun, like that's kind of how it started for you?
Yeah, I'm sure it just started with pure jealousy. Like I was just like, well, they got bikes, I want bikes. And you know, then dad they saved up and got me like a little 50, and took me like to the fields and just let me ride around, and then they started going to like the local motocross track, and I got to go with them. So it was just kind of turned into like a family thing of like, we could get to go to the track, and you know, some people go to the soccer field or, you know, go play basketball or whatever, and we just like, we went to the dirt bike track and did that. So it was just super fun to be able to like grow up and still have some memories of just like being a kid digging in the sand, and then just, you're late for your moto, go hop on your bike and go race. So it's just like, it's cool to still have those kind of memories of just being like a little kid in the sand just riding dirt bikes.
Yeah. And so then when you're 13, your dad has that accident. What did that do for like your life personally? And then like racing, I'm sure got a lot tougher after that.
Yeah, it definitely got super tough to just kind of carry on. The weight went pretty much all to my mom. She was my dad's caregiver. We took on like the role. Yeah, it was definitely like it was a tough thing, especially because he never really bounced back. Like, you know, like I don't want to like say like certain people that have had these similar injuries or like have it easy by any means, but like the way you see like a Jesse Nelson, where he like, obviously I'm not going to say his life is easy by any means, but he's able to go do things and maybe go, I don't know like his pain situation, but he might be pain free or, you know, not.
Yeah, there's definitely like a spectrum of recovery that people make.
Exactly. And he was definitely like bottom of that barrel of like not having a day where he wasn't in pain. He was taking ample amounts of medications to where doctors were like, he's not going to live very long. And he had so many complications with nerves that he was just in and out of hospitals, surgeries, just like, it was just honestly just endless for him. Like it never stopped. And so he never really bounced back ever. There was a little bit, maybe a year or two, where he was able to still take me to the track and we'd go riding, and like it was still amazing. Like I was still doing a lot of things on my own. Like he would basically, like, I would load everything up and he would just drive me there, and I'd go ride, I'd load everything back up, and he would sit in the van and watch me. But before that, it was just like, I was just too young. Like I was, I think 12, about to turn 13, and that happened, and I was just like, they didn't let me go to the hospital to see him, probably because he probably wasn't really like in a good place to be seen. So they probably kept me away from that for obvious reasons. And so I just didn't get like the significance of it being so young. And so like if I was like 16 and I seen that, I'd probably be like, yeah, dirt bikes, or like I'm out, like no chance.
Yeah.
But the one thing that like, even when I talked to him, if he was in the worst amount of pain or the least amount of pain, like if we talked about dirt bikes, he would still smile. Yeah. So it was just like, how can something take that much away from you and then still give you this much as well? So to see and feel like the passion he has with things, like it's just like, that's where I get it from, is just like a full heart of just two-wheel passion. Yeah,
and I mean, if your dad's a dude that's at the track taking photos, telling with people, like he fucking loves that shit.
Yeah, like I said, he's just a huge dirt bike fan. Like, he loved it. And ironically enough, like, growing up, my brother, like, cut out, like, you know, back when freestyle riders would, like, cut their fenders and stuff. He cut a set, and my dad freaked out on him and was like, "You are not doing that." And, like, that's when, like Jeremy and, like, they were not role models. so like, my dad was like, "You are not going to be like them. Like, you keep your feet on the pegs and you race your race and you don't do any of that." So ironically enough, like, I remember that as a memory, but yeah, he was just like, he just loved it, man. Like, anytime we could go, his face would light up and would love to be a part of it, and was just so stoked to just see it and watch me ride. And that's kind of like just a good passion. Like, you can't take that away, apparently, you know? And,
yeah.
like, and if you can't take it away from that man, like, you can't take it away from me.
Yeah, no, amen to that. And so when did your brother start to kind of like go off the rails? And how much older is he than you?
My brother's 7 years older than me.
Okay, so he would have been 20 when your dad had that accident.
Yeah, and he was already kind of headed down the road, getting, like, DUIs, totaling trucks and things like that. So he was just, like, well on his, you know, his own self-destruction, unfortunately. And yeah, that's like I said, I was getting taught what not to do real quick. But yeah, I was just, like, with that going on, and I'm sure he was maybe, you know, processing things differently, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, it was just like a fully different path of the way he looked at life. And I think he was kind of the kid that was more upset of what we didn't have than of looking at it the other way. So I think that's kind of like just the way he looked at life, and is like, what I don't have because of these people or my parents type thing. And I looked at it of like how hard they work for what we do have. So it was just two different outlooks.
Man, it's so wild how that shit works. And like, you think about, because I never really thought about it until I went to school. Like, it wasn't until I went to school and kids started like teasing you for, like, you know, if you had like the initials of somebody else on like your shirt because you bought your like school uniform at the last year's dudes, you know what I mean? Like, you buy the
hand-me-downs.
Yeah, and like people would like open your tag and be like, "It's not even your fucking shirt," and like, "You don't have Nikes, you loser," like that sort of shit. So like, it wasn't until school where I even fucking knew that I didn't even really know what like money was, essentially.
Right.
So
yeah.
it's like but it's weird how you see some people, like, yeah, you've got like your outlook and then your brother's outlook, and you come from the same family, the same, you know, the same everything. And like, my mum and her brother have like, it's like a very similar deal. And it's just like, my mum wasn't even like, she basically just left home at 15, met my dad, and was like, "I'm having a better life, like, fuck this shit." And then my uncle was just like the exact opposite route. It's just so bizarre the way that it can just split like that, you know, when you're coming from the same place. But I think so much of it's obviously like your genetics and like who you are as a person, but then just like the fucking kids you get exposed to at school, or the teacher, or like, just there's so many external influences that like rub up against you that can just like really fucking derail your life.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that was kind of my brother's case too, as well. As like, he just had the wrong people around him, and he let them influence you. And I mean that as a kid, or even like as a young adult, or even now, I mean, that's not easy to do sometimes. Like, so like, I can fully see where it comes from, but at the same time, like, I think that's just where you gotta like, you know, I don't know what the word is, but like
self-regulate.
Yeah, exactly. Self-regulate, and just like, does that really matter? Like, at the end of the day. And I think that's kind of like where I grew up, is like that never bothered me. And I don't know, like, I went to school like not caring, and I just like made the friends that I had, and I was friends with everybody, and I never got picked on, and like, I stood up for the kids that did, and like, just hung out with everybody. So like, I don't know, I was just like a cruiser. I didn't really like deal with that stuff.
Yeah. It's so sick though that dirt bikes can be such like a grounding thing that can take you through your whole life. Like, I'm definitely in that category. Like, I don't ride motorcycles for a living, but like essentially motorcycles in this whole world, like that is my living. And when I'm not in this studio, I'm riding my bike and I fucking love it. And there were so many times in my life, like, man, just being on the bike, and like I was never even really that good, you know, but like just being on the bike was like the place that I always went to. And like, I remember we had a friend of ours had a ArenaCross Supercross track under lights at this property that they had. And like my granddad died when I was like maybe like 16 or 17. I got a feeling I was like in my last year of school, and like we were riding at the track at night, and then my parents just like rolled up to the track and they're like, hey, like your granddad's like, this is it, you know, he was in like a terminal care facility. And so we went there, we like literally said our last goodbyes, like he wasn't, you know, really there. My parents were like, okay, what do you want to do? And me and my brother were just like, can you please just take us back to the track? And like we just went and just did laps all night, you know what I mean? And it's like, I really do feel thankful in my life that I've found that, you know, like you've just got this thing that it's like there for you no matter what. And it's like, it's you doing it. It's not like the bike is there. Like you've still got to get on and do it. But I don't know. It's like, it feels like there can be such a thing that can just get you through so much shit in your life.
Oh, that's crazy, because I say that a lot. And I even say like throttle therapy is like a truly like real thing. And I mean, that's gotten me like through so many times. And like you said, like all you want to do is just go back to the track. And I mean, it's just a place where like it truly can like actually, like, it sounds crazy, but like heal you a little bit and just like bring you to a place where it just like your mind can be free. And that's all you got to focus on. It doesn't even matter like if you're fast or you're slow, it doesn't matter. Like that's the beauty of it. And like that's when like people come up to me or like, yeah, I love it, I'm not that good, but I'm like, who cares? Like it doesn't matter. Like I bet you're having just as much fun as I am. Like it don't matter how fast you're going. It's just like, it's just a special thing that like we get to do. And like, and so many times and so many injuries and things like that, to where like dirt bikes get you into a whole load of trouble, but you know, they also get you out of it too. So that's like the special thing about it. And what I like to like perceive to people is that I've gone through times where if I just go ride, like I feel better. It makes it simple.
Yeah. And it was funny, man. I had like such a weird level of guilt around that for a while, like when I was younger, because I was like, oh, my granddad just died and all I wanted to do was go back and ride. But I don't think I could like quite put it into words, like how it was, like you said, throttle therapy, you know?
Yeah. And I think too is like, especially like with my dad passing, like I now ride for him as well. Like I don't just ride for myself. So like there's moments where like I just like get on the track and I just like kind of like feel him and we go ride, you know. It's just like, it's kind of weird and cheesy maybe, but it's just like a super special thing that I had with him. So now when I get to go do it, it's just like I get to do it for, you know, for the both of us.
It's crazy how proud your dad would have been of you, I reckon. Like, I mean, how long ago did he pass away?
He passed away in 2017 or 16.
So he got to see you do some cool shit.
Yeah, he did. Unfortunately, like through that time, he was definitely kind of in and out of consciousness and just like not doing the best. The last like year of his life, he was actually like kind of doing better, less like medication, and actually like doing like a lot better and well on his way, which was kind of unfortunate. But yeah, like a lot of that time growing up, he was just kind of just like, I hate to say the word zombie, but kind of just like so he's just like, what are you going to do? You're going to be in pain and just miserable? Like that's not a life either. So he kind of was just taking a lot of medication and like just kind of just not really there either. So it was definitely just a different feeling growing up, because sometimes he was there, sometimes he wasn't. But when he was there, or even if he like fully wasn't there, like his face would light up and just be so stoked to like talk about riding. Like it would just never left him. And that was like the one constant for him. So Yeah, I trip out on sometimes. I'm like, man, I wonder if he would like if he ever thought like this is what it would turn into, you know?
Oh man, like just hearing your story for like I've been in those towns where you grew up, and like it's crazy to think that a girl with a dad that had that kind of injury at such a young age like still made it, you know? Like it's so much, the likelihood of you quitting is like 98% in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that looking back to, like, I just don't get how I got as far as I did with what I had. And I just had enough people that, because my dad was a good human being, he had great friends, and like sometimes they would come over and like help me with my bike if I needed something. I had, you know, a family that kind of took me in, and I traveled to the amateur nationals with. So like I had people around me enough, like not you know, just to be there really, like, and fill in that gap that I needed help with. But at the end of the day, like I was like a kid getting shipped off with just people and going racing, and like that's when like you obviously like need your family the most. But you know, I was just getting shipped off and going to these places, and I don't know how I made it, especially with like the bikes that I had. We had to make them last as long as we did. Like when I won Loretta's, I had like, I think it was my stator was going out, and it was just like it was just like it would get hot and stop running properly, and just like I was beating Team Green kids and just a bike that just barely was running. So it's just like it doesn't make sense. Like I just don't get how I've gotten this far with what I have. But that's like the humbling thing too, is like I always have little flashbacks of like, you made some leaps and bounds with what you had, and like now there's really no excuse to do whatever you want to do.
Man, it's funny, whenever I look at your bikes or whenever I see your shit come up on Instagram, I'm just like, this chick's got some childhood trauma. Because if you look at my bikes, I have childhood trauma.
Yeah, and I think the best feeling ever now is like, if I break something, I'm like, yeah, it's no big deal. I can afford to fix it. And I'm like, sweet. And yeah, dude, I think my dad was like super into like making sure our bikes were like spotless. So I just love to make sure like my bikes look good, and especially for like what we do on them, it's not like getting motoed out and like roosted. And so I'm like, let's go and like let's make it sick. And my mechanic Rob, he's a genius with colors, so like he just knows what to do with what pieces and how to build things, and just like putting his spin on things. Like he's the man.
Yeah, it's funny, like when you see your bikes and just how like dope and dialed they are. And then I look at like my shit where I'm like, I do all the most unnecessary bullshit to my bikes, but I'm like, wait, I literally had broomsticks as bar ends as a kid, so I'm having dope shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like you worked for it. You gotta have it now, and that's like when it matters. Especially like now that I'm qualified to ride the 30 plus class. Like that's when you need it.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
You gotta have it. So I'm just like, let's go all in. And I looked the other day, and I'm like, why does my freestyle bike have an oversized front brake? It doesn't need that. I don't even touch it. But it's got one.
Oh, that's so sick. You should race World Vets. What is there a women's class? Well, you probably wouldn't race a women's class anyway.
I think there is.
Is there?
Yeah,
dude,
we have one at like
chicks. Go and beat some chicks. Do something different.
Fun. Dude, I raced two-stroke national, and I raced the 30 plus class, and me and Doug Dubach were just scrapping for the whole thing. And I'm just so like, sick. This guy was like winning stuff before I was born, and we're just like on rails together. It's so rad.
Oh, that is so sick. Yeah, I've got like me, my brother, like one of my best mates, like childhood friends growing up racing. This is like how dope motocross is, right? So this guy, I was like 17, I just left school, and I was working for the Kawasaki dealership trying to do like sales and spare parts. And this guy like walks in, he's all like fucking tatted out, like gnarly looking dude. And he's like, oh, I want to buy a bike. And I'm like trying to sell him on this KXF 250. And then he's like, all right, man, I'll let you know. I go to the track like 2 days later and I see this guy with a brand new KTM 250 and I was like, fuck this guy. He just robbed me of my commission. And anyway, he like unloads this bike and he goes out, does one lap and gets a flat tire. And he had no toolbox, no quick shade. So like where we grew up to, it's like 105 degrees. It's like basically Florida summer. So it's like This dude had no quick shade, he had no tools, he had nothing. He just bought this brand new bike, did one lap, and I was like, fucking. As soon as I saw him with the bike, I was over him, and then I saw him get the flat tire. I was like, all right, we'll go help him out because my dad had like the full quick shade, the whole toolbox, like spare tubes, the whole deal. So we went over. We're like, hey man, come under the quick shade. We'll fix your tire. You're not going home because he literally started going home, and that was like. That was like 20 something years ago, and the dude's been like my best friend ever since.
No way.
Yeah, so
that's sick.
He's podiumed World Vets twice and won it once in the 40 plus class. So he's coming over, and then we got like another childhood friend that's coming over to race as well. So we're just going all in.
That's sick. Serious racing crew. I like it.
Oh yeah, we're serious racing guys.
I like it.
They're all good. Like they're actually all quite good. I think they'll all do pretty well. But I'll be stoked if I can do all the jumps.
Yeah. Hey, someone's got to win the novice class.
I'm actually
might be you.
I'm wondering though whether like we were talking about it yesterday. I'm like, do I go novice and get 10th, or go intermediate and get 30th? But intermediate's probably safer than novice.
It's funny you say that because I tell my boyfriend that all the time. He's a Harley guy, or like he does all the stunts on that stuff. So he's a second, like moto's like his hobby type thing, and it's kind of turned into like him getting to do a bit of both worlds. But he was doing novice for a while, and I'm like, why are you doing novice? He's like, well, I'm not that good. And I'm like, yeah, but like those guys are really not that good. And like at least if you go into intermediate, like you get guys that like at least have like some control of what they're doing, and you'll be a bit safer. And he's like, well, I don't know. And just like he would go back and forth. I'm like, just race intermediate. And like it's just so much safer.
Yeah, that's like we're actually having that conversation. And then I hadn't even really thought about it, but my brother's like, dude, you're probably not going to be able to like have your numbers and your name and shit like on your bike and jersey. Like that's probably a bad idea for you at like every track in Southern California nowadays. I'm like, man, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, you don't really like talk shit on the podcast, so I think you're probably pretty good. Yeah, like if you were like bashing riders, then you'd probably maybe just throw a t-shirt on and call it a day.
Yeah, but I think I'm just like super slow, and everyone's gonna want to like hang. I'm gonna be like in a moto at my full speed, and dudes are just gonna be like chilling next to me, like watching me ride. I'll be like,
this is the guy, huh?
Yeah, leave me alone, boys. I know I'm trying to work.
That's too good.
So I think you should do World Vets.
I mean, if you're coming to do it, that'd be pretty sick.
I feel like it'll be a pretty good event this year. I'm trying to like recruit as many people as possible. It's a crazy cool event in general.
Yeah, when do you know when it is?
5th of November.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll be back in California for that, so I could be down.
What bike are you running for the track days?
I just have a Cali 450 that's set up for moto.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if I could ride the women's class, but I'm down for 30 plus. I finally I've been sneaking in 30 plus for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then now I'm actually 30. So, and I haven't been able to race since I turned 30. Just schedules just like have ruined me for all the races I've wanted to do. So I'm like, I got to race something, because now I'm like, I'm going to be 31 this year, and I still haven't like been like legitimately in the 30 class yet. So I'm like, we got to do this.
Dude, you could be the 30 plus world champion.
I don't know. That's pretty brutal out there. It'd be a battle for sure.
Yeah, you could run, I don't know. Well, are you considered, you'd probably be considered a pro though, right?
Yeah, well, we have like pro and expert, so I can probably drop to expert and be all right. Because like I feel like if you race pro, you're still kind of out for blood, and expert, they're like, all right, well, you go to work tomorrow, so like we'll just like pass nicely.
Yeah. I think that's like, I kind of waited to ride motocross or like race motocross again until I kind of like hit that 30 plus, because I'm just not interested in being out there with a kid that still thinks he can be Ricky Carmichael.
Yeah, I went and I did. I flew in to ride Mammoth, and like just the way the schedule, I was trying to ride vet weekend and race vet weekend, but I couldn't make it until like later in the week. So I went and rode like the amateur practice day, and just even the practice day, they're just like out for blood. Yeah. And I'm just like, I just did my first lap and just trying to like feel like get warmed up a little bit, and they're just like on the revs, blowing berms, like just like ruthless. And we literally like did a couple more laps and we left and went trail riding.
That's hectic.
Yeah, I was just like, I think vet weekend's my time. It's my time to shine, vet weekend.
Yeah, that's actually
Those
on my bucket
people.
list. Yeah, that's on my bucket list too. Is to do Mammoth.
Yeah, Mammoth has always been one of my favorites. It's just like, it's a cool atmosphere. The town's sick. You can kind of like do other activities afterwards, like. We like I said, we went trail riding and like went through 2 tanks of fuel, just trail riding and like checking things out. Like it was so fun. And like, that's why I was there. I was just there to do like hang out and do a photo shoot for Belle for like one of the helmets. Yeah. So we went like trail riding and like found all this sick like trail spots. And then like after we were done with the shoot, me and my boyfriend, we just like left and refueled up and went back out there, and we're like, this is epic. And we just like climbed up like a couple mountains and just checked everything out, and it was so much fun. I had a blast.
So have you got any like moto bucket list stuff that you kind of want to tick off while you're still like really in the prime of things?
I do, like racing stuff, or just in general?
Literally anything, yeah.
Yeah, I think like a few like races that I like wanting to do. It's hard for racing because like that's me spending money to go do something fun, and then it like kind of like if with my schedule for like events and shows like that, it's like, am I gonna like not do them and train for a race, or am I gonna go do them and just not be the best at racing? You know, so it makes it kind of tough for my schedule if I wanted to do like some other races. But yeah, I definitely think there's still some things that are like left on my bucket list that I want to kind of complete. I got kind of close to finally just flipping 75 consistently. I plan to try and maybe go back this summer and kind of finalize it, and just I just kind of like doing like learning things in my own little bubble and not with like the hype of everyone around. I just like kind of go into like a little like MIA and just kind of get to work and do it that way. So I'd like to just like kind of get flipping back under my belt. I did so many the last summer, and like got like my last day I feel like they like clicked to where like it was super effortless. And then I had a shoulder injury the whole time, so I was just kind of like fighting through that, and it just made it like super inconsistent for me to be able to do them all the time. So that ended up hurting me, and then I ended up driving home, trying one under rotating, and I just kind of wanted to take a step back and just do it the right way so we don't run into that anymore. So I've kind of put that on a little bit of a hold, and then, yeah, there's still one trick that I don't really want to like say just yet, and I want to like put it through the test and like go into it. It's just those are kind of some things in my head, and I think now I kind of just want to like get into like those video parts and like kind of work on that sort of thing. But yeah, it just it takes the tools to do it. So it's just kind of getting all the people and in the right spots and coordinating it all. But yeah, hopefully I can kind of maybe work on some video parts and do things like that. But yeah, I'm just kind of like slowly but surely like going into that and like learning it on my own. Like we ended up buying a camera and just like learning things on our own. So that's been like kind of a fun hobby for me to do, is just like we film and ride and enjoy it and have fun. So just kind of working on that, and just like I said, just like enjoying like being home and like getting to do things and just have a schedule, and like I just like enjoy it. So it's like we've been doing kind of like winters in California and summers on the East Coast, because that's where my boyfriend's from. He's from Connecticut. We've been going out there, and Brody Wilson, he lives in Mass, and he has like an unbelievable compound, so it's like an hour away. So I went there all last summer and went into like his foam pit, rode his compound, and rode with him all summer. So that was like a super fun like mix up. And I think we're probably going to hit the road in like another month or two, and just kind of try and hit some tracks and maybe go visit the Grants out on the East Coast now, because they moved out there, and just go hit some tracks and facilities, and just kind of like, I don't know, like I grew up in Southern California, and I've ridden the same tracks since I was a little kid, and they don't change much even if the layout changes. So I love getting to go out and just like experience just other tracks and just go chill and you know, just live a little bit of like a different life than just California has to offer.
Yeah, man, I'm honestly so tempted to. I'm working on getting back to the States at the moment. I think it's almost been like 5 years since I've been there, which is crazy.
No way.
Yeah, it goes so quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm like kind of in the process of, hopefully I know pretty soon, but man, part of me just wants to buy a Sprinter van and just like go full Gypsy spec and just cruise around the States with like a Stark and a 350 in the back and just go to like all the sick tracks, because that is one thing about America, is there is so many fucking dope motorcycle tracks that you can go and ride.
Exactly. And that's where I'm just like, man, if we could just like hit the road and like load up all the toys and just go, like that is the American dream. And like, and when we do events, it's literally like you hop on a plane, airport, hotel, venue, you leave, you go home. So you never like truly experience where you go. So I think it's super cool to just like stop and hit some places and like experience things. You see something cool on the side of the road, like stop and hit it. So that's kind of like what we're planning to do, is just like we're going to load up the bikes, the Indians, and just like go hit some spots. And like, and that's like a thing for Seth as well. It's illegal what he does. He can't just go wheelie or do burnouts at just anywhere. So we drive along, and some of the road trips we've gone on, he's like, that would be such a sick spot to hit and like wheelie and do his thing on. And now it's like, well, like let's go do it. Like it's just it'll be a matter of unloading the bike and, you know, making sure the camera's charged and like, let's go. So we're kind of like just gonna go hit the road and just enjoy what we can do while we can. So just go hit the road, find some tracks, find some wheelie spots, and just go see what we can find, really. And I think that'll be like I said, like what you want to do too, the American dream of just getting to experience road life and not just going from A to B. So it'll be cool.
Yeah, America's such a crazy place too. I think I've driven across it twice now completely, like all the way across. But then I've done so many different routes as well, like not just across and across. Like I've kind of been to, man, I probably would have been to 30 plus states, and it's like it's almost like Europe in the sense that every few hours it's a different country. Like Louisiana, California, they ain't the same fucking thing.
Yeah, not even close.
Yeah. So like there's so much on offer, like especially when you're kind of like driving and seeing all those different places, and like it is a different culture.
Yeah, it truly is. Like where Seth's from in Connecticut, like you go back in time. It's so trippy. Like just some of the thing, like with his parents too, they just like, they're from a small town, and like I would drive to Mass every day or almost every day to go ride, and it's like an hour or so away, and his mom is so sweet, and she'd just be like, you're going that far again? And it's just like, it's an hour away, it's not that far. And just like it's just such a different thing. They have like landlines, they still like get newspaper ads, and just like it's just such a, I don't know, it's just a different, like you literally go back in time. And like his parents are super cool. But I remember we were going on a trip to one of the shows, and his dad comes walking out with like an atlas and was just like, I wanted to see where you guys are going. And I'm just like, Is that what I think it is? Yeah. And just like, I don't know, it's just you go back in time, but like it's such like a cool, like everything just slows down. Like you feel like you have more time in the day, and like we'd go fishing, go hiking and mountain biking. Like it just like we would do so many things. Like we were outside 24/7 just doing just anything really. And we were like kids in a candy store just living. It was just like it's just a different world out there, but it's like almost necessary now that being in California 24/7, it's just like you need that like reality check of like just slow down and like enjoy things for a little bit.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I remember when I moved back to Australia from the US, because I mean it was like I was there most of my 20s really. And I remember coming home and just being like, whoa, I can get so much more done in a day. And like, I just felt like my time, like the time just expanded for me because I wasn't in traffic. Like America, I said, used to pick one thing a day to do. Like, are you going to ride today? Okay, you can just ride. Like you get your bike, you drive to the track. That's going to take a while. You ride, you come home. That's going to take a while. You wash your bike. It's over. You go to work, you can do that today. Like you got a meeting in LA, you can do that today. Like there's just no doing multiple things in a day there.
You're so right. It's so, I don't get how it works, but it's literally like just that. Like if you go somewhere, it's like, oh, that's a day killer. And then you're like, oh, I really don't plan like multiple things in a day for that reason. And I'm just like, it just doesn't work. And if it does, it's like it just so close on scheduling. Like it just, I don't get how it works like that. And like where I live, it's like super close to the training facility I go to. It's super close to all the places I ride to. So like we're in a super small thing. So I still don't understand how that works. And I'm like not even touching like freeways, highways, nothing like that. Like just in town. And I'm just like, you leave the house at the wrong time of the day. I'm like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
So it's just it's different. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, no, I felt it massive. You said before how your like parents and your in-laws were like, oh, you're gonna drive that far. There's two things that I think that dirt bike riders have that is like on levels above the average human. One is a pain tolerance, and two is a distance tolerance. Like for me to drive 8 hours, like cool, I'll go do that. Like that's no worries at all. And then just like the shit that I guess like the concept of pain is just so different for someone that spent their whole life riding or racing bikes.
Yeah, or just like not even distance, but like traffic. Like to add to the distance, like for us, it's like you could go like, I mean, you guys don't do miles, but you know, like drive an hour, it could take 3 on your way back, you know? So it's just like, I don't get it. But yeah, the pain thing is so weird too. I mean, like in so many scenarios where like you take the hardest slam and you just get up and you're just mad. And you're just like, you should be like hitting the ground and like contemplating life. And and you're just freaking pissed off and just like, I hate everyone right now. And like, that's not a normal reaction.
Nah. I found when I started like training with jiu-jitsu, like the stuff that people would think hurts, I'm like, that's actually not really that bad, eh? Like just any decent sized crash on a moto, like my fucking eyelids hurt. Like it's like a full body hurt.
Full body soreness, whiplash, like the whole 9 yards hit. And then if you don't have any injuries that like are previous, like then that's a different story. But then like you crash and like hit your arm, but like if you have an ankle injury, you're like, oh man, my ankle hurts more now. And just like everything just like, I don't know, everything just is, I'm obviously we're bodies are connected, but I don't get how I'll take a spill and then all of a sudden one of my old injuries just flares up and I'm like, that has nothing to do with that.
Have you've had some pretty bad ones though, eh?
Yeah, I mean, my worst one was I think it was the beginning of 2018. I did a show in a convention center and it was like polished concrete. And we were spraying like Coca-Cola and like soda on the floor, and when it dries, it kind of creates like a tacky substance. Just poor decision making. We should have just like laid something else down instead of doing that, but you live and you learn on certain things like that. But yeah, I just got wheel spin and didn't even make it to the landing and just went like straight up, and last second I just didn't really have the bike because I didn't have traction off the ramp. So I was more worried about going OTB, so I just like pulled and just like kind of just tried to set myself up for a good like hit. And just in the last split second, I've never done it ever in my life, but I just like didn't have myself like even feet on the pegs. It was just really all out of whack and just stepped off the bike last second and went, you know, that I think like 40 or 50 feet up straight to my feet. And it was like super, super cold, snowing out. So like everything was even more rigid. And yeah, I pretty much exploded my right foot and ankle, and every single bone in that foot just was annihilated. And I developed Epstein Barr, or not Epstein Barr, what is it called? Like compartment syndrome. I developed compartment syndrome in it, like Roxon did in his arm.
Yeah.
And so when that happened, I was like, at first I thought both my legs were broken. And I was like, both of them are broken, but the right one's really, really bad. I don't know what happened, but it's really, really bad. And I started like going into shock because like it was just like I felt like something was like I've never felt before. Like I felt pain, I felt broken bones, and it's not that big of a deal. But this was like, I was like, something's wrong. And the ambulance got there, injected me with morphine, and I'm like, it's not doing anything. I'm like, I feel everything, it's not doing anything. And they're like, they gave me more, didn't work, like nothing was working. And then they were getting to a point where like, we can't give you anything else, because I was getting to a point where I was just like, it was working on the rest of my body kind of thing. And it was just like, I wasn't breathing anymore. I would just like, all the machines would go off, and I'd like come back to, and then feel everything, and like hyperventilate and like go into shock again. And then I'd like pass back out, and then like stop breathing, and then go back. And it was just like a vicious cycle. And I was in Ohio, so like it was just not a place where they've seen compartment syndrome before. So they didn't even know what they were looking at. And they like wrapped it up. They're like, yeah, well, we'll get you into some x-rays. And I'm like, no, something's really wrong. And the lady, the doctor at the time, she's like, it's just broken. Like it's exploded, but it's just broken. And then we got like a CT scan, and sure enough, like everything, like my heel exploded. There wasn't even a bone there anymore. Every single bone in my ankle was like compressed to the point where like there was nothing like in between all my joints, and like everything was just like either just into each other. Every bone was mushed into the next, and it was just cracked everywhere. And I was just like literally like flat out like tears, like this is like something is wrong. And I stayed like that for like almost a full day before, I think like 20 hours with compartment syndrome. And anything after like 10, you start losing like fingers or toes, or you know, like whatever. So I fully should have like lost my leg. And the a specialist finally came in the next day at like 2 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon, and was like, he looked at me and like grabbed my toes. I couldn't feel them, they were ice cold. And he like looked at me and was like, he didn't even like give me like an explanation. He's like, hey, I gotta step out so I can get you into surgery. I'll come back in and explain things after, but I gotta set this up right now. And so he like stepped out and like organized the surgery to take me in, and he was like, hey, I gotta relieve the pressure right now, or I don't know like what we're gonna have. And they rushed me so quick that I like straight up remember like not even knowing like what I'm gonna wake up to. I was like, I'm like, am I gonna wake up and not have a leg? Like I didn't know what was going on. I was so scared. And the doctor said like when he made the incision, like everything like exploded, because there was like, I remember looking down at my ankle, and it was like the size of I didn't even recognize it. It was like the size of like a small watermelon, like massive. And like it was just like, it didn't look like it belonged on a human body. and he like loose stitched it and like kept it open like Roxanne's arm was, like just like fully open so it could just like release pressure. But like I remember waking up from that first surgery and like your eyes are still like not fully adjusting, so you're just seeing like blurry stuff. But I just was like trying to like look at my leg to see
just
if there was a leg there.
If you still had a leg.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was like the first scary step, and like they put a nerve block in, so like I was so like, well, I woke up and I had a leg and they put a nerve block in, so I didn't feel any pain anymore. So I was just like fully like, oh, like I have my leg and I'm like in like temporary no pain. Like I know when this wears off it's gonna hurt again, but I was like, I needed a break. I was just like, I had nothing left to fight and I was just like struggling. And that was like the first step of just like getting some type of like relief. But it was so gnarly. I'd like wake up in the middle of the night of just like a puddle of blood under my foot, and like just like so gnarly. Like it was just an unreal experience to deal with something like that. And the surgeon was like, he was actually super cool, because he straight up was like, hey, I know you're an athlete and I can fix this, but I don't want to. He's like, because of like what you do, he's like, I'd rather do whatever it takes to get you to your surgeon. And I had a specialist, like I already had a specialist that I seen for my ankle already, for my other ankle. So I already had a good relationship with my ankle specialist, and we texted him and like let him know what was going on, and he requested certain scans and things like that to kind of speed up the process for when I got there. And thankfully that doctor in Ohio was like as real as they come, and was like, hey, I want to get you home to your guy so he can handle this for you, because like this is like I can, but I don't feel comfortable. And like, which is very rare.
I was gonna say that's actually crazy that a doctor checked his ego in that sense, because you think about just being a run-of-the-mill surgeon in Ohio, like you're never gonna see something like that again. And it's like, think about all the barbecues he could have gone to, all of the, where it's like, oh man, I got this leg and I had to fix it, took this. Like it's so easy for a doctor to like want to do that, even though he probably doesn't have the skills to pay the bills.
Exactly. That's where I was tripping. I was just like, man, he like fully was like, I'd rather you get to someone who can truly do this. Because I had like 10, 12, 15 people in my room every time they took the bandage off, because they're like, we've never seen this before. So everyone wanted to come in and see. So like I just like it was just not a thing in where I was. So when we got organized a medical emergency flight, like through Road to Recovery, like they stepped in and helped out.
Oh, really?
Quite a lot. Yeah. So they got me a medical flight, and we got to the point where like this, like it drained enough to where I could get to a flight to flight home, because I couldn't even like it was the most unbearable. Like if it dropped below my foot, like everything flooded to it. Like, I mean, like if you've had a surgery, like you can feel like that blood, like pumping type feeling that it starts just like pulsating. And this was like one I've never experienced before. Like I couldn't even like have my foot down to go to the bathroom. Like it was way too much. Like I couldn't handle it, and it wouldn't, like once it was there, I couldn't like filter it back out. So it was just like unbelievable pain that I like had to deal with. So I had to get a medical flight because it was just too risky to even fly like that. So they left everything open and just like let me fly to California to my surgeon. And my surgeon he's freaking awesome. He literally was waiting for me. He's like, I'll wait whenever you get here. I'll do it. And he went through the options with me of what to do. And he ended up putting me into, before he even fixed anything, he put me into like an external fixator. Yeah. He's like, because everything was just mashed together, he's like, there's no room for me to even like work. He's like, so we're going to put you in that and just like try and like open your joints back up. So he just like tried to open as many joints as he could with the fixator. And after like, I don't remember how long I was in one, but he had that, and I came in and he like moved it and tried to open my joints up over time. And then I think maybe a week or two later, he went in and like fixed everything. And he was just like, he's like, I stopped counting all the little pieces of your bones I was pulling out. And so like he did an amazing job for what he had to put back together. And unfortunately it didn't even stop at that. I was supposed to only have the 3 total surgeries, and then it went into a nightmare of infections. And then I think I was at 7 or 8 weeks post-op, and like my scar had pretty much fully healed. I had like a little scab left, and I was kind of walking at this point with like one crutch, sometimes no crutches. I was kind of walking a little bit, and then all of a sudden it just like it blew up. I couldn't walk on it anymore, and then I went back in, and I actually had like a surgery in his office, and he just cut it open in his office. I was like fully awake, and just to drain it and get all that shit out. And then I just like got antibiotics, tried it, and like I went through like months and months of multiple surgeries, and like we could not get the infection out. And it was just like, it was basically a bone infection at that point. So I did multiple surgeries. He thought one of the screws was causing issues, so he pulled the screw. Then he pulled and then like it was a crazy like roller coaster, because I would get to a point where I could maybe start walking again, and then I'd get off antibiotics, and then it would blow up like massive, get hot, red, and I couldn't walk anymore, and then I'd have to go back in for surgery. And I was just like, and your pain sensors like heighten. I thought it would get easier and easier, and it was just getting like to the point where just an IV in your arm I was just like excruciating pain, because everything's just so heightened. So I went through, I think, a handful of surgeries more, and they were on like my 8th surgery, getting ready to schedule me for another surgery, to a point where they were going to like cut all the skin off, shave the bone down that had finally grown back, and just leave it all open and just try and let it heal that way. And I like called Navarro, and I'm like, dude, I can't do this. Like I like physically and mentally like can't do it anymore. And I was just like, please help me. Like I can't do that surgery. Like, and it's like the extent of like, I needed in-home care, like, just because of like, it was just too much. And I was just like, I physically and mentally cannot do the 8th surgery. Like, can't do it. And he's like, okay, I'll find you another option. So he found this doctor that put a PICC line in my arm, and it was just like, I could do at home antibiotics, but like gnarly antibiotics. And we did that. It was like one of the strongest antibiotics you could have. And like, I just had to like give myself an IV like 3 or 4 times a day, and to get it out that way. And it was just like, even then, like, and I've been on antibiotics for like, I think almost the entire year at this point. And I'm just like riddled away to like nothing. Like I normally weigh like 150, 55 pounds, and I was like at 120.
Wow.
So like, I was just like, I lost all muscle, like I lost everything, and I was just like,
were you single at that point too?
No, I had one, like my ex-boyfriend at the time helping me, and then like I had roommates too that were living with me and helping me, and like my mom was at the house quite a bit helping me. So like I had people helping me at the time, so like thankfully like there'd be no way I could have even done anything by myself, but thankfully I had enough people around me to take all that on. But yeah, just endless surgeries, and like even to the point where like when it was just so frustrating, because every single time I'd start walking and then I'd go back to crutches, start walking, go back to crutches, and it was just like endless. And even like the last time I went through the final like IV treatment for antibiotics, and I was just like, dude, I would just remember, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to keep this leg. Like, I just like was like, still like a year later, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to get to keep this leg. And I just like said a prayer, and the next day they pulled me off antibiotics, and I was just like just praying like nothing was going to go bad. And everything like started to like nothing bad came back. And my doctors actually like cleared me to ride shortly after, and they came out to the track with me that day for my first day back. So it was like super special. And just like, I mean, I just like couldn't believe that like I was actually gonna get to like keep my leg and keep riding.
Man, that is hectic. Like my brother had a real bad, like similar, like just shattered his ankle completely, dislocated it, like that. They couldn't put it back in because there was like nothing to like leverage the joint back because he dislocated it and disintegrated it. And then so he had all these surgeries, and then he got staph real bad, and it was like they ended up having to cut like a hole in his leg and put like a sponge in it and just like constantly just suck shit out of it. And
that's what I had.
But dude, I mean, nothing like that, what you went through. That is so fucking hectic.
Yeah, it was, I mean, that was probably like the gnarliest point in my life for like an injury wise. But it was like, it was nice because I had people like Roxanne, like Jeremy, like Bilko, and like, they're like, we've been through this, like, and like, it was good to see like people that have been through that and then they're riding again. So like, it was just like, it was kind of my motivator of just like, all right, like, I don't know exactly, you know, like specifics, but like they're riding and like they did it. And like Chad K even like reached out and like always kept in contact. So like I had a lot of people that like were elite athletes reaching out and
so
telling,
cool.
Yeah, and like I think even Nicoletti, because I think Nicoletti did something like that. He reached out, and just like having so many riders reach out and be like, hey, like I went through this. If you have any questions, let me know. And like so like having that was like super, super comforting because like even I remember hitting up Roxanne and be like, dude, like I'm on like surgery 6. Like, how did you do this? Because I know he did 6 in like a day or like couple days, you know? So I was just like, how did you do this? And like, just like getting like that, like those people that have been through it too, as like, it was unreal helpful because I mean, I did like, was like, I'm not riding anymore. I quit. But it didn't last long because at the point, like I was stuck on the couch and my decision to quit didn't really change anything because I still got to do the same process to walk. So if I want to walk, once you get to walking, then like the light, you see a light at the end of the tunnel. But like, I still had to get to the point of walking. Like, I'm not going to sit on the couch forever. And like, you know, so like the process is still the same. So I was like, even if I quit, like I still got to get to walking. I still got to do the therapy. Like, at least if I try and like have riding at the end goal, like it's at least like worth it. Cause like for me, like just getting to walk, but like it was like a real like scenario where it wasn't like a career threat. It was like a life threat. So it was just like, that's a whole different ball game when it comes to like, you know, injuries and things like that.
Yeah, man, it is special what the body and mind can go through for you to have to go through that injury at that time in your life, and then to like you almost like the best parts of your riding career have come post that injury almost.
It really has. I mean, that was like what like sparked everything else is like I just started doing freestyle and doing shows, and then that happened. But I was actually getting like, you know, like I mentioned, like the rates I was trying to chase for getting paid and things like that. It was finally like coming through. And so it was just all coming together. So it was a little bit frustrating because I was finally getting what I thought where I should be. And then that happened. So then I just felt like the world was obviously just passing me by, and like just getting to sit outside in the sun was like the biggest treat I had for the day. So it was definitely humbling in many, many ways of like what life can be. And then you kind of realize like, you know, like what to actually like focus on and like, and be around who you want to be around, and like do what you actually like, you know, just like when you start taking things for granted, that's when like life checks you. And I think maybe that's when life started to check me a little bit.
Yeah, it's such a good way of looking at it, you know. What do they say? Like a healthy man wants many things, a sick man wants one. And it's really true, you know.
Yeah. And then that point, and even to this day, like I'll look down and like my ankle will kill. Like every morning, like it is not easy for me to get out of bed and just walk. Like most mornings, like I gotta like get it moving and then I can actually walk in the morning. And I just think, I'm like, man, like I could think this really sucks, but I just like, I got 2 legs to stand on. And then I'm just like, yep, I'll deal with it.
And yeah, I guess how is it now? Like, is it still something that I feel like that's a kind of injury that never really goes away?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, like if you think about it too, like a foot and ankle, like if you injure that, everything travels up.
Yeah,
So I struggle, like obviously, like for the longest time I had so many issues with everything that one of my bones would kind of like come out of place and get stuck for a long time. And so then I'd have to like fully have it get like put back into place. I think now I think it's to the point where like I've done it so many times, like the bone's probably like rounded itself off. So it's actually less painful now. So it just pops in and out, no problem. But yeah, it's just like, there's never a day where I don't struggle with it. I think the first Imagination, I ended up re-breaking it. I started breaking like my metatarsals, like in the middle of my foot.
Yeah.
And then, I did my first metatarsal at first year Imagination off of like the smallest little hip jump. I just landed like toe heavy on the foot peg, and then my foot just like, it just snapped. Like the part of the bone snapped fully in half, the other part dislocated, like it just gave. And that was a little like disheartening, because after I got that fixed, I did the second and third one, not as bad, but I did them. And then I'm like, what do I do? Like, I'm just like, they're just breaking. Yeah. So I just try to take a different approach, start different supplements, and just see what I could really do. And just there's not much to do, unfortunately, but I just like take on my physio, and he does as much work as he can, and I just try and do as much ankle, like just to this day, of just like keeping it moving and just try and do as much as I can for it. But yeah, it starts to travel up, so it's like my knee starts giving me problems, my hip starts giving me problems, my back starts giving me problems. So it's definitely a challenge in itself, but that's kind of where I've resorted back to just doing research and figuring out what I can do to help it, and what things help it, what things hurt it, and just kind of go from there and just see what I can do. And while it's still somewhat movable, I'm going to keep riding until I can't do it anymore. So I'm just kind of taking advantage of what time I've got left at this point.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy what, you look at Roxon and what he was able to do post that injury, eh?
Yeah, that's like what truly like kept me going too, because like he went through something that wasn't not career ending, that was like life threatening things that he was dealing with, to where like he was lucky to keep his arm. And that's a whole different ball game than our silly little sport. So that's where I kind of just like looked to him, and I was just like, he's doing things that he shouldn't be able to do anymore, and he's still doing them, and he's still doing them competitively. And then he did his other arm and still is doing things competitively. And it's just like, how can you not be such a big fan and like support the guy? Like, there's no bad things you can say about a guy that has been able to come from that and still go to the top, and stay at the top.
Yeah, no, it's pretty remarkable. But yeah, I mean, the same thing, like, I guess that's, one of the themes of us talking is like there's so many crazy redeeming qualities and like beautiful qualities that get built from a life of, like where dirt bikes or where, motorsports, or what, I guess, dirt bikes, it really does forge like a certain type of person. And, there's been so many people that have come before us, like, like I said, even my brother with the injury that he had, like he runs, like that's insane. Nearly lost his foot, and the dude goes out and runs. And like it is a pretty crazy world that we live in, where it's like it's so gnarly what you went through, but it's like weirdly normal too, you know?
Yeah, I think that's where it's like comforting though too. Like, one of my friends had a similar injury later, and I was like, I just went through it. Like, I broke that bone, and look at me now. Like it sucks, and you're gonna go through some stuff, and you're not gonna like it, and it's gonna be miserable, but you're gonna get to ride your dirt bike on the other end. And that's like what I always say is like the same thing that gets you into it, it will get you out. And that's what this sport does, is like it gets us into some shit, but it'll get you out, like mentally, like to push through. Like the amazing thing that your mind can do of just being able to swing your leg over a bike again, it'll take you to some lengths, and that's like it's damn impressive.
Yeah. Well, hey, we just did 3 hours, and that's probably as good a place that we could end this podcast. Thanks so much for coming and doing it. I've like really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, dude, thank you for having me. I'm glad we can make it happen and get the time frame straight.
yeah. It was definitely not an easy one to make happen, but it was so worth it. It's a crazy story, and honestly, like you're an extremely inspirational person in the industry. I think you're underrated as a rider. And yeah, I hope people really get to appreciate what you've been through to be the chick that you are right now.
Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate it, and I've been a big fan of the podcast for many years now.
Oh, that's sick. All right, well, we'll do it again sometime. Hopefully I'll see you soon for a ride. We'll race World Vets together, and
yeah, let's do it.
We'll make it happen.
I like it.
We're excited to announce the launch of our new membership site, gypsytales.com, packed with exclusive content and perks that you won't find anywhere else. This is your chance to become a part of the Gypsy Gang. And as a special bonus, if you sign up to an annual membership, you'll be entered into the draw to win our custom-built TC125. Gypsy Gang.